Day 1. And I want you all to write down everything that happens between now and then. It will be good practice, and those of you who get to go on the trip will be able to tell everyone else all about it, while the rest of you can tell the trippers what you've been up to when you get back, said Mr. Clandusprod with a smile, before staring at me and frowning. No, Colin, I didn't actually mean right now, this actual minute. I meant when you go on the trip next week, or... Oh, never mind.
But sir...
Butted in one of Bettina's three heads.
There's visiting Belobrat. We don't want to write about it so you can see it. We want you to be with us when we go. All of us. What have those other classes got that we haven't got?
My move, said Mr. C, straight-faced. I'm a lot less pupils. I'm sorry. You all knew this was only going to be temporary when I took over. I'm going to be extra busy from now on, now that there's 11 of you. And I still get to take some classes with you, just not as many. I don't know why you're all surprised. Mr. Clandusprod stroked his round chin and looked a combination of edgy and sad. You knew the rules when I took over the class, all of you, but I would only be filling in until your long-term teacher was ready. We're not surprised, said Lando. Just sad. Mr. C continued. Now that you have a full complement of the new arrival in the morning from Earth, I won't be officially qualified to teach you anymore and have to pass you over to Mrs. Maggrumph. I'm sure you'll all like her every bit as much as you do me. There was another storm of protest, mostly led by the Belobrat in the front row of 3 and the 11 desks spread out across a decidedly tatty classroom. The Doosbury Giant, of course, taking up the space of 2.
But sir, we don't want Mrs. Maggrumph,
exploded Bettina.
You're our teacher. She's so Maggrumphery.
She looked over at me.
Colin, is that a word?
I shook my head.
Archulus, Elfrida.
They shook their heads too, robotically and insecty, respectively.
Well, tough,
continued Bettina, puffing out a free chest.
It is now.
Mr. Clandusprod smiled sadly and seemed to be doing his best not to cry. You will always be my first class, as far as I'm concerned, my best class. I've loved the times we've had together in this classroom, even Hermione's practical jokes, but less painful ones anyway, he admitted as he absently-mindedly rubbed his back where the Mrasianart karma machine had walloped him the previous term. But all of us knew this was only temporary. We've long deserved a proper teacher, and now you're going to get one. You should be pleased.
But not Mrs. Maggrumph. She's not a proper teacher. She's not even a proper, what's the word? A proper being,
groaned Decreeta.
She's far too loud,
complained Hermione the Habridat.
She wakes me up all the time when I'm trying to nap in class. And she keeps confiscating my jokes, not like you, sir.
She's evil,
chimed in Alfreda the Mrasianart.
She's scary,
whispered Jake the Glabdiharbit, who'd been hiding under his desk ever since her name was first mentioned. She's not very nice, sighed Lando the Clandusprod.
She's far too emotional,
then panned Archulus and Mekkion.
Fact.
She's too fat,
complained XXXX the Doosbury Giant.
She has a real anger management problem.
Smoldered Squash the Agrosian.
I think she's a star,
said Margalo the Maggrumph quietly.
You would,
said Bettina coldly, swivelling round in a chair to give her an icy stare, and nearly falling off.
But most of all, Mrs. Maggrumph isn't one of us, not like you,
concluded Bettina.
We've been together a long time now, sir. 2 whole months for some of us.
That's 2 120ths of our total age, breaking down to 1/60th.
Chimed in Archulus.
And I'm sure switching teachers round on us at such an impressionable age would have a negative impact on our education. Wouldn't it, Colin?
Bettina finished, turning round to look at me.
Give us some of that Camalosian legal speak.
I looked up and scribbled on a bit of paper I then held up. It would undoubtedly leave us aggrieved and inhibited during the remainder of our travails through the intergalactic education system. To all intents and purposes would be a miserable conclusion to our underlying experience of integrating into true society, leading us to form embarrassingly anticlimactic during our future examinations, and any inspections the school would hither undergo, something that would only reflect negatively on any future consideration taken out in your further career, sir.
What he said,
Bettina said, banging her free arms on the desk.
It's just not proper.
All right, sighed Mr. C. I'll see what I can do, because I enjoy these classes and don't want to lose you lot either. But it's not up to me, but your headmaster. Who is our headmaster? Complained Lando. We never ever see him. Nobody you need to concern your multiple heads about, said Mr. Clandusprod quickly. Just as well too, given the amount of practical jokes you've played on me this past few weeks. Throwing algebra eggs at my galumphing car and dropping those versiculi spiders down my back. I dread to think how he would have reacted to those, said Mr. C, trying to look stern, before his face broke out into its usually wide friendly grin. Honestly, you didn't gain your reputation for being the naughtiest class in the school by accident, you know.
No, exactly,
replied Bettina.
It was hard work. I mean,
she said, quickly correcting herself.
Look at how much better behaved we've been since you took over our class, sir. Why, Hermione hasn't played any jokes for very nearly a week now.
3 days, 2 hours and 27 minutes,
blinked Archibald automatically.
Like I said, very nearly a whole week,
continued Bettina, waving her arms for emphasis, and half accidentally, half deliberately, whacking Margot round the back of the head and making her antlers jangle.
That's all down to you, sir.
Get on with you, spluttered Mr. C, turning red. I just let you get away with more, that's all. You'll be fine once you've broken your new teacher in.
You're one of us,
said Alfreda simply.
You always understood us on a deeper spiritual level. Without you, we'll understand this now.
Exactly,
said Bettina.
You understood that we're all here under sufferance and have to do whatever it takes to get through the monotony of life in this school, just as we understand that it's your job to stop us going too far. There are no hard feelings between us, the way there are with all the other teachers.
I thought my job was to teach you things, sighed Mr. C good-naturedly.
That too,
said Bettina brightly.
I always forget that bit, but I've learnt ever such a lot this term. Honest.
Like? Asked Mr. C with all his arms folded.
Lying. About the thing you were saying the other day,
replied Bettina.
I'll never ever forget it, sir, as long as I live, and we Belobrats grow up to be 1,000. What was it now?
Mr. C shook his head, laughing. You're incorrigible. Don't be sad, though. We'll still see each other as I potter down the corridors. I still get to teach you some English classes.
It won't be the same,
said XXXX sadly.
End of an era. Like when your favourite food changes its packaging.
You're all too young to have an end of an era, smiled Mr. C. You'll have forgotten me by next week when you're on that exciting trip to Decreeta. There's some of you who get team points anyway, which you're all going to have to work hard to get. I want you to go, you know, we pleaded. It will be good for your health to go, so do work hard and get as many points as you can. Please.
I doubt that,
muttered Bettina darkly.
Not with Mrs. Miserable sticking her antlers in our face all day long. And anyway, because we're younger, we've had less ends to an era, and so we have less experience about how to overcome such trauma, so we should all be given extra dispensation, including no lessons for another term.
Just then the school bell went. All right, class, said Mr. C sadly. Remember to write down everything that happens to you, so you can show me when you get back. It will make a good impression on Mrs. Maggrumph too as she takes you on the trip. If you get to go on the trip. You remember the rules, don't you? The house team with the most point wins for the trip of a lifetime.
Send us to the museum,
muttered Hermione.
Work hard for that. Don't make me laugh.
You know we don't have dust anymore, not since the Mekkion solved that little problem, explained Mr. Clandusprod.
Yeah, well,
said Bettina.
Agrosian fur and Habridat feathers and discarded Camalosian skin, though. All the same to me.
The teacher ignored this. Oh, and don't take it all out on the poor new Earth girl. None of this is her fault, you know.
Oh, isn't it?
Laughed Bettina darkly.
Fancy losing both her parents just like that and being sent here with the audacity to be our age and put in our class too. Just isn't fair.
Now, said Mr. C. Remember what it was like for all of you when you first came here. Be nice to her. We will, sir, smiled Lando. We'll make her feel at home. Well, I know you will, Lando, said Mr. C. I just hope the rest of you follow suit. Scallywags for the lot of you. All right, go on your break now. And take care, each of you. Class 5C trudged sadly to the corridor, taking one look back to see Mr. C collecting papers and straightening their desks, his back to them, clearly trying not to look at them. I said we should have brought him a goodbye present, said Lando. Bettina snorted. Why, we weren't the ones who wanted him to leave. We're not the ones with money either. All shops come to that. A good job handing him something stale like the food replicating machine would be. We don't even know what he likes to eat. Why do bad things always happen to us? You wait till I meet the human causing all this trouble. Most of Class 5C trooped out through their great hall, which wasn't really so great. It was rather a snug fit with 11 children, one of them a Doosbury Giant, and out through the double doors to play, somehow mingling alien feelings of sadness and grief with their usual noise and boisterousness. I sensed that something important was about to take place, though, so I hung back in the shadows in the corner of the hall, where I hoped I would go unnoticed, ready to take notes if it was needed. As I heard the noise of a game of foosball going on in the playground, it sounded from the squeaking as if poor Jake was in goal again, then somehow got attached to the foosball as it got kicked around and around. I tried to concentrate on the scuffling noises I could hear in the corridor outside. 2 pairs of feet were unmistakable, the large heavy waddling plod of Mr. C's multiple pairs of legs, and the staccato clicking heels of the dreaded Mrs. Maggrumph that I had heard thousands of times before. There was a smaller, single pair of feet walking alongside them I had never heard though. So light by comparison, I began to wonder if my strong Camalosian ears had deceived me. But no, they were there all right. I imagined myself an explorer of wild animals, curious to learn as much as I could about this new prey, yet simultaneously ready to flee to the safety of the yard if need be. I heard the sound of footsteps and fled to the shadows. The door opened, and I saw that our teachers were either side of a small, frail, lost-looking human girl, her eyes as wide as the Glabdiharbit's as she trembled, trying to take in the sheer scale of the near windowless hall. She looked as if she had been leaking water from her eyes recently, and whether because of that or some other reason, they looked as if they were still out on stalks, only she kept brushing them away and tried to make her face look fierce and solemn instead, as if she kept forgetting how she meant to look, and her real expression insisted on bursting through. Though I didn't know much about this species' physiognomy, she seemed small even for a human. The fur that extended from the top of her head was tied in 2 knots down her back, and if she'd have been a Camalosian snowboarder, her stance would definitely be described as goofy. My curiosity overcame my need to hide, and I slowly, imperceptibly, crept nearer to where she was, hoping no one would see me, never mind interact with me. This human, how strange that word still seemed on my tongue, had so many emotions passing across her face. I had to scribble hard just to keep up with them. Confusion, awe, hope, sadness, anger. This was so different to home, different even to the other aliens in my class. This looked like it was going to be a full-clawed job trying to write down everything that I could see. I decided to concentrate on the dialogue instead. "This is where you'll be spending most of your time," explained Mr. Clandusprod to the human girl, kindly. "It's where you'll be all the hours you're not in class, except when you're running around outside. This is your living quarters and common room, where you'll sleep and play. This door through here is where you'll do all your studies, and through this door is where you'll eat all your meals. We don't let you mingle with other classes here. Contamination," he shrugged helplessly. "I'm sure you'll understand." The earthling nodded numbly, not really taking what he was saying in as she stared around her. Mrs. Maggrumph wasn't so sweet in nature.
If I were you, I'd be very naturally tied in, and the course required for me to get up to something I, for one, just won't mind. I like my pupils to behave just so, like my protégé, Margot.
Robin squeaked something that sounded a little like a Glabdiharbit. It was probably meant to be an earth word that got stuck in her throat.
You'll be in house team human for now,
continued Mr. Clandusprod. "That means every time you do something well and we're pleased with your work, your species will get a team point. At the end of the year, we'll collect the team points and see who is on positive numbers and thus gets to go on a special school trip. You're in luck, there's one coming up very soon as a special treat for the holidays.
And every time you do something bad, or you've been grass, you'll get detention with me, human lad. Sorry, Lars."
Mrs. Grumpfus's ankles shook, a mini sign of a volcano waited to erupt under the surface.
"And my children don't get treats, they just get detention. On repeat."
The human gaped all around her and came to her senses as an ingrained sense of politeness kicked in. Thank you, sir, miss," she stuttered automatically. "I'm sure I shall be very happy here."
"We'll see. Welcome to Class 5C.
frowned Mrs. Maggrumph.
Oh, it's Mrs., not Miss."
She leaned over threateningly.
"Never forget this. I have a husband waiting in the land of my birth when we get back from teaching all of you. Sirs, he thinks I am pretty and witty and will join me soon when he's back from working in the city. He works in pharmaceuticals. And will be joining me soon because he makes own cuticles. I'd rather be there than teaching you kids, but Maggrump's got to do what she's got to do to live.
She trailed off. Mr. C smiled. Not me. I was in the education club on Ziggurat. I'm sure it'll fit in just fine, he said, even though I wasn't at all sure of that from what I had seen. They're a good bunch, really. Slightly mad for a lot of them. Definitely eccentric. But they mean well. His face fell momentarily as he rubbed the bruise on his back. Most of them, anyway. Mrs. Maggrumph was staring at the newcomer, her antlers out on stalks, and a clumsily lipstick mouth at pains with the rest of her face.
You behave, knave, or things will be very grave.
The human gulped. Now, said Mr. C quickly, don't scare the poor thing just yet. Save your eye for that Belobrat and Habridat pair of troublemakers instead. He handed over a bundle. Here is your new uniform, he said. Oh, the human girl said, looking at it. Everything's grey, with tartan patches, and a covering where 2 extra head spaces would be.
Children don't deserve colour, at least until summer. And we're not going to spend good money after that,
snorted Mrs. Maggrumph.
Now take care of it. You're going to be wearing it until at least post-grad.
Robin looked at a grey skirt, grey blouse, grey socks, grey cardigan and grey tie, and shuddered. Then she tucked her uniform under her arm, not noticing that she dropped it unseen a few minutes later. I sympathised with her, remembering what it had been like on my first day here, eons ago. Well, last week, which still seemed eons to me. I felt a pang of empathy for this poor lost soul who was smaller even than me. I hoped she'd be my friend one day, once I got up the courage to talk to her. What's that rumble? Asked Robin as the floor shook and she tilted from side to side. Never you mind, snapped Mr. Clandusprod. It just does that from time to time here. Oh. Who's that furiously scribbling in the corner? Asked the human nervously, pointing towards me. Me? I flinched involuntarily. I was enjoying it, hearing the shadows lurking, watching, observing. I knew that being polite meant walking into the light and having people look at me, but I was fed up of being polite. Polite got you nowhere with certain species. It just meant that they shut you up quicker. My instincts told me to run and hide. I tried to back away, but found the door locked. I rolled myself up into the Glabdiharbit's pillow fort and hoped that she would leave me alone. That's what the others did most of the time, after all. To my surprise, she stepped forward and grinned at me. Mr. C laughed as he saw how uncomfortable I was. Oh, him. That's Colin, your new classmate. A Camalosian. He's harmless, I think. I've not really talked to him much. At him, yes, but not with him. I don't think anybody's talked to him much coming to that. Just leave him be, and he'll be fine. Mrs. Maggrumph snorted.
He's just like the rest, an annoying little pest, though at least he's not quite so loud. To be honest, he just sort of blends in with the crowd. We should make him do more, that's what I say. I'm tired of letting these youngsters all get their own way.
Mr. C thought for a moment. You know, I'm quite enjoying knowing one of the class won't shout at me when I try to make him do something. Best leave him be, and maybe he'll come out of his shell in his own time. Come out of my shell? What were they talking about? That was the worst mistake I ever made. I remembered how warm my egg had been when I was hatched, how protected I felt nestled amongst its snug walls. I had my nutrients, I had sunlight, I was cosy and snug. Why did I ever need to break out into this outside world? Shells were good, shells were safe. Why did I have to grow up and get too big for my first home? I didn't want to be a part of this awful universe that made bad random things happen. A universe that had clearly done random bad things to my new classmates too. Especially this one. Somehow though, despite the pain in her eyes, I felt her kindness too. There, the girl said. I won't harm you. It's going to be all right. I froze mid-set. It's all right, she said, patting me on the nose. Don't be scared. You don't have to be the newbie anymore now I'm here. I think you're very clever to do all the writing you've done. She stroked my tail again. Instinctively I felt myself purring. Then a strange thing happened. I felt myself... Was that a smile? It had been so long. It felt good to have contact with another soul again, as the hand connected with my tail, over and over, a repetitive motion that felt better than I expected it to. Even so, I couldn't help but see myself as a newcomer must see me, all non-entity, scales and tail, and covered in ink stains. I shuddered to feel that strange feeling of being alive again, after so long merely observing. I shut my eyes, hoping that would make the human go away. It temporarily seemed to work too, as when I opened my eyes again she wasn't there. I breathed a sigh of reptilian relief, only to find a hand coming from above to stroke my head. "Why is he writing down everything we say?" said the girl to the two teachers curiously, peering at my writing, even though it was upside down. "With 4 limbs too. Impressive. I thought I was clever being ambidextrous, or at least I seem to be equally clumsy with both hands."
Well, there you ask,
snorted Mrs. Maggrumph.
It's some sort of mask. He seems to hide behind his writing everything that's on his mind, instead of speaking it out loud to the crowd. I think it's very stupid, and I wish he didn't do it.
"Don't mind him," said Mr. C, rolling his eyes in the way only a Clandusprod can. "He's just an introvert invertebrate who doesn't say very much. He says speaking is terrifying with so many people looking at him, but being able to write anonymously gives him a sense of order and peace, or something. He's like you see, cut off from his species. In fact, everyone in his school is. By rights he should be learning legalese and how to speak in lengthy sentences like others of his kind. But we can't afford a Camalosian teacher in the school just yet, so I'm afraid that all that natural instinct for transcribing had to go somewhere, and it's gone there. He won't do any harm. In fact, it's quite useful sometimes if I want to look back over class notes. It's quite astonishing how much he seems to take down, despite writing at top speed." "Oh, shorthand?" said the human enthusiastically. "No," blinked the teacher, not quite understanding what she meant. "He has quite long talons for his age, really." "Oh, that's not what I—" started Robin, before seeing the uncomprehending faces of the teachers and deciding to save a battle for a different day. Instead she turned to me. "I'm Robin," said the girl, putting a hand out towards mine. "You know, like the bird." "Oh wait, I guess you don't have those on your planet. I mean, I'm not putting down your planet. I'm sure it's nice. And you've probably never seen an Earth bird, have you?" I froze again. I wasn't used to people actually addressing me, especially strange aliens. So far, as the new boy in town, I've been able to hide away from everyone and keep to myself. But suddenly there was no one else here. Most of the aliens had given up trying to talk to me and let me observe and write long ago. Suddenly, by being addressed and remembering that I existed, I began to start actually feeling things again. No, this couldn't happen, not yet. I wasn't ready to be a character in my own story. I wanted to tell the tales of other people, not me. Curse my curiosity and need to observe things, luring me out of the shadows like this. I stared at her, not sure how to react. But instinctively, my nerves and intuition on edge, I felt that she was safe. Shocked by my revelation, I instinctively took a hand in my talon. "I'm new to your class," Robin prattled on. "Just arrived today. I'm pleased to meet you." I looked up at her eyes, pleading at mine, and suddenly felt pity for this new animal, who seemed as lost as me. Swallowing hard, I shut my eyes and stretched out a talon of my own out. Weird, no one had ever done that with me before, not on Orpheus anyway. Instinctively, I started to speak. Falteringly, hesitatingly, the words poured out of me. Not in the way they did when writing, of course, but by my standards, this was a verbal onslaught. "I'm Colin," I said, to the audible surprise of my teachers, as they had barely heard me speak, and I put out a second talon, not quite sure what this earth custom of putting limbs at each other and connecting meant. "Why, well, no one else really, just me. I think we did a lesson on Earth wildlife at some stage. Did you say your name was Penguin?" "Close enough," said Robin quickly, not wanting a long discussion. "I hope we'll be friends." I put out a third talon, which she gamely tried to take with her left foot. "You're in our class, so that means you're automatically our friend. More importantly, you're one of us," I said. Robin smiled a grin so big I was half afraid her face might come apart, not being too sure of human biology, despite having spent a very boring lesson on it last semester. I put out a fourth talon without meaning to, and when Robin grabbed it, we both fell over in a laughing heap of trouble. I went better than I feared, for both of them. Maybe our most troubled pupil of many troubled pupils has just made his first friend, whispered Mr. C to Mrs. Maggrumph, clearly thinking I couldn't hear before he glanced down at my talon, still scribbling despite being underneath Robin, and turned red. I'm sure Robin will settle in fine. Let's leave him to it, Mrs. M. Mrs. Maggrumph had one last word of wisdom for us foe.
Don't touch. Much.
She glared, the antlers through her bonnet waving merrily as she scowled, towering over us, before she followed Mr. C to the door. I could tell that the hall was very different to any Robin had ever seen before. After all, I'd had much the same reaction when I first arrived here, but it was amazing how quickly you became used to something that once seemed so strange. Childhood was a time of adapting to new situations outside your control, after all, something I took to be true even before I came to Orpheus. The hall was relatively large in scope, so that it dominated the school building, all the better to cater to the size of Doosbury Giants, but it had also been divided up into so many tiny fragments that it looked smaller than it really was. Each 11th or so of the room came with its own series of clashing colours, with 10 very different styles of decoration daubed on the walls, plus an 11th that was still blank. One was marked Clandusprod and was full of mirrors and decorated in a childish scrawl that was full of what seemed to be lots of uplifting messages. Robin felt ahead to translate these automatically, a gift of the Mekkion translation circuits established on all inhabited planets. You're great. You got this. You were born to succeed. If you weren't me, you would be my best friend, along with all my other friends. Next door to it was a part marked Glabdiharbit, which looked like a giant pillow fort, with comforting cushions leaving just enough space for a small creature to sit in. Round the corner was the part marked Mekkion, a collection of neatly ordered boxes and files, surrounded by a giant whiteboard that was filled to bursting point with calculus and equations. A number of holographic photographs were pinned to the wall too. Next to that was the Doosbury Giant part, dominated by a giant oven, with a series of pages ripped from cookery books pinned up haphazardly on the board behind it. Next to that area was the Mrasianart section, where an alien-looking lava lamp, wind chimes, and a giant dream catcher were hanging indelicately from the ceiling, along with a set of gigantic encyclopedias. Robin almost missed the space next to it, which she thought was blank, until she saw small, simple brush strokes in the middle, mimicking antlers, and the simple statement, Maggrumph. Turning round with Robin, I saw the three-headed bedstead marked Belobrat, and the large mirror hanging over it on a backing of clashing vibrant primary colours. Next to that was a series of red scrawls, and the sort of thing Robin recognised from home, pictures of cars and guns and motor vehicles. The legend Agrosian was emblazoned on the wall alongside it. Next to that was a large collection of boxes underneath a hammock, which had been stretched out from the ceiling above, under a sign that read Habridat, and a ginormous lamp. After that was my adopted home, Camalosian, filled with diaries, jotters and notebooks, and with a series of pages of spidery writing stapled together that covered most of the wall. Finally, there was one last section left blank, with the exception of a single word. Human. Robin hesitated. This one's mine? She asked me. Yes, I said falteringly, unused to hearing my own voice in the echoey hall. Assuming you were human anyway. I've never actually seen one before. Gosh, aren't you small? Robin frowned. I was probably smaller than she was, after all, if you didn't count my tail. I noted to my surprise that she didn't seem to have one. All the more space for me, I guess. She sat cross-legged on the floor, then turned to face me. Will they bring my things in later, do you think? Yes, I said. The caretaker is a Habridat, though, so it takes a while to get anything done round here. I will help you, though, or at any rate I will. Thank you, she said, smiling at me before pulling away to peer through the one window into the yard and all the doors. What is this place? Maggrumph Towers? I didn't know what that was. Oh, never mind, it's a pun on a book title. Probably one that got lost in translation. So what's this new school like then? My old one was just full of adults spouting a lot of nonsense none of us really need to know yet. Well, ever in many cases. I've never been to school on another planet. Is this one really different? Does it have lasers and robots and education machines? Not exactly, I said. There are no lasers or edging the figures, and the only robot is one of our classmates, Though technically the Mekkion is only part robot, I suppose. Mostly it's Mr. Maggrumph stopping for hours and hours in front of one of three boards, a blackboard, a whiteboard, and a roulette board. What's a roulette board? Asked Robin. So I explained as best I could. Well, you need Archulus for the full explanation, but I think it's a board in the colour of roulets, which is the one past violet on the rainbow spectrum. I don't think many human eyes can see it. Ah, said Robin, peering in at the classroom door. I wonder why those letters were all sort of floating in mid-air. She turned round to look in the great hall again. Suddenly the ground gave one of its periodic shakes. What's that rumble? She asked. The Doosbury Giant dancing? I shook my head. Nobody really knows, I said. It just does that from time to time. Oh. She looked over where our television was nearly on its side from all the shaking. What's that big box in the corner? Our communal universal vision, I said. It's like a TV, but it picks up channels from all over the universe, and we all take turns who gets to choose what we watch. In the past month we've been confined to one single educational channel for some punishment or other, though. It's awful. BC News is full of the presenters who couldn't get jobs doing anything else. Archulus, he's the Mekkion, he came up with a rota somewhere we used to use. You're on it already. Bettina, she's the Belobrat, decided what you'd most like to see and said you'd be a big fan of Belobrat television and like all the same shows that she does. She says she's pinned you down to that channel for the next 3 terms to your own benefit. Most of us just choose the BCBC in any case. The Belobrat Clandusprod Broadcasting Company. Okay, cool, said Robin. After thinking for a bit, she asked, what do we do for meals? There are some of the supposedly new super-duper food replicating machines next door, but they never seem to work properly. You can share mine if you like. We can program anything from anywhere in the universe. But mostly we eat whatever XXXXX feeds the Doosbury Giant suggests. Don't be scared of him, by the way. He looks big and scary, but he's the biggest sweetie out of a lot of us. They seem to know a lot about cooking. Most of it's really good. Oh, lovely, said Robin. I didn't think you'd have those here yet somehow. We've only just had them installed at home. At this last word her face crumpled up in a most peculiar manner, and she put her head into her hands. What was home? She added sadly. I guess this is home now. It's all been such a blur since the incident. I picked up my smallest notebook and walked over to her to put my arms around her. I'm sorry, I wrote down for her. We all went through the same thing when we first ended up here, or variations on it. What happened? My parents died, said Robin, crumpling. There's a bit of an epidemic at home. Oh, don't worry, I'm not contagious. I've been tested, though I don't know why I'm safe when they're not. I did everything they did. I went everywhere they... She dropped her voice. I have a theory too. See, there's this new pill that's being sold on Earth. It's everywhere, and I don't think other planets have it yet. I hope they never do. Horrible, disgusting red stuff it is. It's become the next Earth craze. My planet is full of crazy stuff like that. It's meant to be good for health and the environment and stuff, only the scientists haven't had a chance to study it properly yet. My family were obsessed with it. Mine never took it because you have to do all sorts of complicated things to prepare it, and I couldn't do that with my hands. I'm convinced it killed them. And killed a lot of other people too. It's the only thing that really changed on our planet. I have this awful feeling of dread other planets are going to get it too, and everyone is going to die from taking it. Oh, I said as kindly as I could. I don't think so, Robin. I mean, there's no such thing as sickness in the universe anymore. It was wiped out by the Mekkion centuries ago. If something was bad, someone would have stepped in to stop it by now. A Camalosian lawyer, for instance. Yes, but it's sold so craftily. They don't actually say it can cure anything, so they can't be told off if it doesn't do something, and it's meant to be up to the person taking it at their own risk. But what if they don't know the full risks? What if no one can stop it? What if... Just then we were disturbed by the rest of 5C clambering through the door from the yard, something that was normally agony for me, but this time came with some relief. At last I wouldn't have to do the chatting, and I could go back to observing again. I felt my vocal cords going back into hibernation. The others all reacted in a different way to the newcomer. Lando was beaming. Elfrida smiled sweetly. Bettina stood with her back to Robin icily. Archulus stared unblinkingly. Margalo snorted in disgust. Squash pointed at her and laughed. XXX didn't notice as he was heading straight for the kitchen. Jake ran and hid under the table, and Hermione shrugged her feathery shoulders and went straight to a hammock at the top of the hall. As for Robin, the poor thing was clearly having sensory overload. Smaller than all but one of the creatures that had just walked into the room, she backed herself into a corner before falling over air. Picking herself up, she gulped back, in shock at having so many alien faces staring back at her.
What even is it?
Asked Bettina the Belobrat, with 3 heads and expressions that always came so thick and fast that one of them always seemed to be lagging behind the other 2.
A human, I think,
said Margalo, looking Robin up and down.
Not that I've ever seen one in the wild before. Oh, weird,
said Hermione, covering her bird-like beak to try to prevent herself being heard out loud. In vain as it happened.
All featherless and naked, even in clothes. I'm a little thing too,
said XXXXX, a round gas giant on his way to the kitchen.
Those legs!
Snatched Squash, a furry red Agrosian.
How do you stand upright?
But he laughed so hard he fell over.
How interesting,
said Elfrida, peering down her nose at Robin with all of her chitinous insect-like body.
How logical.
Said Archulus, whirring mechanically away beside her.
That's scary,
Squeaked Jake, a small round furball of nervous tension and anxiety, rolling himself up into a ball at the other end of the hall.
Just look at those opposable phones. That's not natural. Don't let it
Does it talk?
Asked Bettina.
If it's a human, they do little also here.
Said Archulus, scratching his head with a robotic limb he carried around with him everywhere.
This one must be defective. Fact.
And why does it have only one head?
Asked Hermione.
Carnivorous Clandusprods. You only have one head, silly.
Bettina pointed out.
Oh yeah,
Grinned Hermione.
I forgot that.
Not very impressive, whatever it is, mused Margalo, her antlers straining as she leaned over to peer at poor Robin.
Stupid baby.
Said Bettina.
It doesn't even have any pierced ears yet, do you?
No, said Robin. I'm too little.
Well, I got all 6 of mine done last year.
Yes, said Bettina, boasting.
I'm practically grown up now. Even Archulus has had his done. Look, and he's a boy. I think.
Mekkion absent-mindedly scratched the hole in his ear.
Actually, mine was a procedure for a technical implant polarity chip in order to better facilitate my capacity to tune into the Ethernet wireless capabilities of foreign worlds.
Yeah, well,
Well, said Bettina.
I got mine done for aesthetic reasons. I'm an adult already, or you're just a human baby who keeps falling over.
I am not, said Robin, just as the ground shook again and she fell over to jeers.
Yes,
Said Hermione to Bettina quickly.
and you admitted to us afterwards. You cried like a baby. Well, I was a baby then,
Said Bettina.
but I'm all grown up now, so there. Nah.
So saying, she stuck out all 3 of her tongues at Robin. Hermione joined in. So did Margalo. Robin shrank back, saddened.
It looks weak. Let's attack it. Bash, smash, smash,
Said Squash, gnashing its teeth with excitement, only to find himself lifted into the air by firm Clandusprod hooves and put harmlessly on a nearby shelf. All right, said Lando, the owner of the hooves, a round sort of cross between a smiley giraffe and a friendly horse covered in spots. That's enough. Don't you remember what it was all like for you on your first day with everyone staring at you? The Clandusprod extended a hoof out in greeting. Our newest member. Welcome to Clan 5C. We are so pleased to meet you. Our classroom really is complete now. I'm Lando. I don't think our new addition had ever seen anyone the size of the Clandusprod close up before, and she was momentarily taken aback, moving backwards quickly again and falling over, and getting upset that she'd fallen over again so soon. She's called Penguin, I said quickly, trying to make things easier for everyone. I'm not actually, said the human, but before she could get her name out, Bettina stepped forward with all her 3 arms folded.
It's all your fault, you know.
She said fiercely to Robin. Sorry? Robin blinked.
Our favourite teacher isn't qualified to teach classes bigger than 10, so he's had to step down, and now we've got our least favourite teacher, who's the worst that ever lived in the entire universe, and she's sure to tell us we can't go on this field trip, we've been waiting to go on practically all year.
3 weeks last Tuesday.
Interjected Archulus quietly.
And we've been so well behaved. And Mr. C, that's Mr. Clandusprod, said if we did really well, he would let us all go as long as we didn't tell anybody. But now with that old Mrs. Misery Guts Maggrumph, she's sure to stop us from going, and it's all ruined, and it's horrible, and it's all your fault, and I hate you, and I wish you'd never come here.
Bettina turned away quickly. I guess most of that is true, said Lando as gently as he dared. None of it is really your fault, Penguin. It's just one of those unfortunate things that happen when nobody has any control over. After all, you'll be taught by Mrs. Maggrumph rather than Mr. C as well, so you haven't really gained, and indeed you've lost out by not getting proper teaching from Mr. C first. Lando clearly puzzled himself and stopped in mid-sentence. Or something like that. I got a bit lost in that sentence. That happens to me sometimes. Actually, my name is, continued Robin again, only for Margalo to butt in.
What's the matter about Mr. Maggrumph anyway?
She said, her antlers flaring.
I know she's a bit of a temper, but at least she doesn't make us gasp, use our imaginations, or think for ourselves. I hate those lessons the Clandusprod gives us. Learning is all about copying things verbatim and writing them down again as neatly as possible.
She stuck her tongue out, and both her antlers at the Belobrat in turn.
Yeah, well, us grown-up species would rather think for ourselves anyway, so Yabu sucks to you,
said Bettina.
Teacher's pet!
Chimed in Hermione.
No, that's Blotchy,
Said Bettina quickly.
and he's ours, not yours, Penguin, so don't go anywhere near him, so there. Nor you, snooty antlers. I named him,
She beamed proudly.
on account of the spot.
She rushed off and then rushed back in equally fast with a blue-spotted creature, a sort of cross between a dog and a horse, which seemed to be the same colours as the grey tartan school dress code, was panting hot breaths of his tongue lapping out from his mouth, and a sort of imbecilic smile that was only considered cute in pets and toddlers.
Isn't he fab?
Gushed Bettina.
They said having a pet might help us bond by giving us something in common, or something. Not quite sure how that worked, but it's probably the only decent idea the school's ever had in its life.
Does he bite? Asked Robin nervously.
Can't.
Grinned Bettina.
He's got no teeth, not like Squash over here.
She pointed to the Agrosian.
He really bites. We've worked out that the hard way.
Squash gnashed his teeth loudly.
Now,
Continued Bettina.
put your paw out, Blotchy.
The Argygraph looked from left to right at his owners, and then sat down and licked himself,
Blotchy hasn't quite got the hang of alien speech patterns yet,
confessed Bettina.
but he's getting there. Here, boy, who's a good Argybrowd you are for then?
But she replied in the affirmative with a sneeze. But then calmly walked over to Robin and put his paw on her knee. Pleased for meet you, he said in a halting voice. You too, laughed Robin. Wait, it's hot to the touch. Is that normal?
We think so.
Said Bettina.
Because none of us have had a pet Argygraph from anywhere before, never mind one breath from this planet, and none of us too sure what's normal for them.
Lando smiled. Look, everyone, you see, Blotchy knows that Penguin is a member of his class, and you all said teaching him manners was a waste of time. His counting has come on really well too. Bettina stood with her 3 arms on her 2 hips.
I still don't think he's quite got it right, you know.
She stuck out her 3 tongues at the newcomer again. Bettina laughed and spoke with one head while the others continued their tongue extensions.
It's a form of greeting where I come from.
She lied. Robin stuck her tongue out in reply. How are you, boy? Robin asked, reaching up and stroking the long tail of the Argygraph that had just sidled up to her. Take it easy, boy. Will you tell the same way that I would on Earth? The others nodded, some of them giggling. Blotchy rough, said the shaggy creature, who warmed himself against her legs.
Good boy.
Boy, said Bettina.
I said he'd come on leaps and bounds with my expert training. He's already said more than the Camalosian has.
Oh, cool, said Robin. We only had a hamster at my old school. We killed it after 3 days and we forgot to feed it. We never got another pet. He looked sweet,
Yes, I'm hungry too.
said XXXX with pride.
Well, you won't forget to feed this one.
Said Bettina.
Archelaus won't let you. He's come up with a rota for everything.
Rotors make everything easier.
The Mekkion said robotically.
Fact.
He extended a robotic arm out to Blotchy, who was by now rolling upside down on the hall floor so everyone could scratch his tummy. You seem very keen on timekeeping, said Robin. At my school we relied on a bell to tell us when to do everything.
He loves his routine, does old Archie.
Giggled Hermione.
He'll be lost without it. Anyone would think he'd swallowed a clock the way he carries on. Maybe one day he will. Oh, me on the other hand, I could quite happily drift off and ignore the time altogether. I hate living to the clock the way the Mekkions do. It seems to make him happy though, and it can be quite useful sometimes, as if I get all sorts of hours in the day back, even if I'm not doing what I want to be doing, at the time I want to be doing it. Yes, well, back in the real world, rotas also cause more arguments when you're booked in to do something at a really inconvenient time, and a pedantic alien is in your face about it.
Sniffed Bettina.
Factamundo. We're all responsible for blotchy in different ways.
Continued Bettina, checking out the rota.
Here, your ex with mystery classmate, as we didn't know who you were going to be.
Wait, said Robin. I seem to be giving him lots and lots of barbs. Barbs! Exploded Blotchy, and he ran out of the room as fast as he could. Everyone else managed to back away in time, except Jake, who was still hanging on to the lead and, squeaking, found himself dragged out the room. This meant that Squash was thrown into the wall and sat on when the algebra ran past, letting out a tirade of Agrosian curse words.
Another fake.
Lando went to help all three of them up and bring them back.
He never used the B word. He doesn't like it.
Hissed Bettina, and she added thoughtfully.
I suppose I should have told you that first, really.
Anything else I should know? Robin asked, worried.
Yes.
Bettina whispered.
The Doosbury Giant overfeeds him, so whoever goes next on the rota needs to know to give him a bit less. The Agrosian likes taking him for walkers, but he needs someone else to go with him as his little legs don't take him very far. And Mrasianart gets very daydreamy and absent-minded when she's with him, so she really needs someone to keep an eye on both of them. She lost him 4 times last week alone, and we only have a small yard we're allowed out in. The Glabdiharbit runs away from Blotchy when he's in a licking mood. I don't trust the Maggrumph with him at all. Obviously nobody looks after him quite as well as I do.
Clandusprod walked back in, with Blotchy under one arm and Jake under the other, putting them both down gently on the floor. Anyway, welcome to Orpheus, Penguin, said Lando. We hope you'll like it here. He stopped and thought to himself. Not that we like it here very much ourselves, but it would be nice if somebody did. Wait, wasn't it Orpheus? And it's Robin, actually, the newcomer trailed off. Close enough, laughed Lando. Elfrida started calling it Orpheus.
It's the name of a god who travelled to the underworld,
said Elfrida knowledgeably, peering through her spectacles.
The underworld doesn't actually exist,
said Archulus.
but it is regarded as a truth in some planets still. This planet is actually named for being a place for orphans. Fact.
The underworld sounds like here right enough.
Hermione scoffed from her hammock.
Welcome to the back of beyond. We've been forgotten here, Penguin. Left to rot by everyone. Nobody wants us. We're just a tiny building on a tiny rock floating in space. Just far enough out of orbit from the other planets so that none of them have to look at us, and ruled by teachers who didn't get the qualifications to take a proper job anywhere else. Nobody wants to take responsibility for us. We're basically refugees in peacetime, while adults wage war on us. It's not fair.
At least we have each other, said Lando brightly. Hermione made a mock vomiting motion and rolled over.
Quite,
muttered Bettina.
Well, I can't stand around here all day. I've got busy things to do, like this.
So saying, she rolled herself straight into a handstand, of a sort that looked quite graceful in the heads, but in reality ended up with her falling flat on the second head's nose.
I like to do that,
she said hastily, rubbing it.
I like to see you do that,
she said to Robin.
I bet humans can't.
Before many seconds had passed, the hall was filled up with everyone trying to do handstands with varying degrees of success. Even Jake rolled himself out of the ball to do one, rather better than anyone else in the room, while Hermione condescended to flutter her wings, and Elfrida levitated. I managed a half one myself, even though it meant dropping 15 pencils, a rubber, and my third best crayon. The only person not joining in was Margalo. I was, she pointed simply. Robin tried, but was clearly finding it difficult, all her limbs sticking out at odd angles, something that made everyone except Lando jeer.
Can all humans not do handstands then?
Sneered Bettina, clearly forgetting that she herself had failed spectacularly just a few seconds ago. No, sighed Robin, sounding beaten. Just me. Only when XXXX ran in from the kitchen to join in with the handstand, causing a minor earthquake that threatened to knock down the school building, did everyone come to a pause, laughing in a heap on the floor. Mrs. Maggrumph had stuck a head round the door.
No bones, girls and boys. Hello twins, boys and girls. This is the last one. No noise till morning,
she said before sticking her head back round the door again with an added,
Harumph.
Bettina stuck her tongues out at her teacher, then turned round to see Robin on her own, still visibly struggling halfway through a handstand of her own, before falling over on top of Squash, who started jabbering in anger. Sorry, she said meekly.
Well,
Bettina continued sceptically.
I did it better, of course, but at least you tried, I suppose, Penguin. That's what the teacher's pet here did. Not that you're forgiven or anything.
Actually, my name is Robin, the Earthling continued. Like the bird. Bettina looked her up and down.
Penguin thinks you better,
was all she said, before going off to play on her own. Robin formally apologised to the Agrosian she'd squashed, but he was having none of it, and gnashed his teeth and made rude gestures at her before running off to join Bettina. Who's the cute fluffy red one with the potty mouth? Asked Robin. Oh, said Lando, don't make that mistake whatever you do. We've all learned the hard way he's not as sweet as he looks. He's an Agrosian, bred for war on the other side of the universe, and he has big anger management issues. Mind you, anyone would if they'd been bred the way Agrosians were. If you can get past his conditioning, he's quite sweet, actually. Takes a lot of searching for it, though. He's really named Quash, but we all named him Squash, because people do seem to have a habit of sitting on him accidentally. I think he's getting used to it by now. How did all that happen? Robin asked. Squashing? Oh, it happens when you get 11 creatures running around in a small space, said Lando, especially when one of them is a Doosbury Giant. No, said Robin, the Agrosians being bred for war, and then ending up here.
You've heard of the province battle that never was?
Asked Elfrida. Yes, said Robin. I vaguely remember studying the book of it in school. It was a sort of travelogue political thriller, wasn't it? Not my cup of tea at all. We needed more explosions.
Yes,
said Elfrida.
There seemed a lot of aliens talking to each other. The statue bit at the end was a bit of a plot cheat, as it turns out. Well, anyway, you remember when the Agrosians came over almost 100 years ago and tried to take our own planet over? They were bred by their queen for war over multiple generations, so their aggression was naturally high. They're not really cut out for it, though, poor things. Compared to the creatures this side of the universe, they're a little on the short side, and rather cute and fluffy, as you can see, though it's probably best not to call them that, as they have rather bitey teeth when you want to. They can't help looking adorable, though, poor things. And the irony is that, I think, left to their own devices without interruptions from monarchies down the ages, I think they'd have been actually rather sweet.
Why don't we just become sweet now? Asked Robin, perplexed. There are no wars for them to fight in anymore.
Well,
said Elfrida,
I guess a century isn't enough time to counteract the early Earth natural selection breeding and being trained to fight. It must be difficult for them being bred for something that was then cancelled. Don't worry about them though, just let them gnash their teeth a bit, and we'll soon go quiet. This one mostly just sits out there in the sun and daydreams. He's not much bother, unless you sit on him by accident. Now come on, class, let's see if XXXX has left us any food for dinner.
The rest of the class trooped out until just 3 of us were left. I watched Lando double back and walk over to Robin. Don't mind Bettina, he smiled. She's just bossy and thinks she's in charge, which she isn't. She isn't even the oldest, I don't think. How old are you anyway? I'm 3 years old, or 125 months, depending how you look at it. Going by the Clandusprod calendar, of course. I'm 10 years, 3 months, explained Robin. Going by the human calendar. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what the Clandusprod calendar is. Well, said Lando thoughtfully, Elfrida or Archibald would probably explain it better. They're the swats of the class, you know. But my home planet of Ziggurat 3 is very different to the rest of the inhabited planets. Our 3 suns are one moon, but our months are really long, but our years are really short. You look puzzled. Or something like that. I forget. What's your planet like? Mud it's called, isn't it, Penguin? Robin, said Robin quickly. I mean, the planet's called Earth. I'm called Robin, not Penguin. That... Is he a Camalosian? Got confused, I think. Though he seems nice. A bit quiet. And it's just home, I guess. A bit blue, a bit earthy, mostly a bit wet. But not the village where I came from. People are always saying how sunny it is there. Lando laughed. Oh dear, I feel a new nickname might stick now. I hope it's a compliment to be called a penguin on Earth. They are such fine-looking birds. I'm sorry, we didn't mean to be impolite. It's just that specifically Earth words are all so new to all of us. They're not really... Oh, it doesn't matter, said Robin quickly. Thank you for being so nice to me. This world all feels so alien. Do you know, I've never actually met any other species up close before. I know they are everywhere, including Earth now, but my part of the planet is still very... rural. Lando nodded. Some culture shock, huh? We are one of us now, Penguin. Like it or not, this is your home now. And if it all gets too much for you, just come and find me. I'm used to making my friends feel better. Robin smiled gratefully. Now we'd better go now, or there will be nothing left for supper. XXXX has been known to down whole food replicators when no one's looking. Lando patted her on the back and walked towards the kitchen. Like it not, said Robin to herself, thinking that no one else had seen her, as we both stood at the back of the queue and trooped into the lunch hall. I don't know what there is I can eat, Robin said thoughtfully. Food replicator machines never really took off on Earth. I've only ever tasted our local cuisines. Let's ask XXXX for suggestions, said Lando, between mouthfuls of Clandusprodic soup with spotty purple croutons. He should try everything there is to try from every planet. We'll be able to tell you. XXXX pulled his head out from his soup tureen at the mention of his name.
It would be my pleasure.
He smiled.
I'm particularly fond of your Earth cereal with algebra milk, followed by a large plate of nachos, a huge side dish of chips, 2 baguettes with peanut butter and marmalade, vegetables with rice, poppadoms dipped in gravy, and an intergalactic banoffee pie covered in marshmallows.
Oh, said Robin, that all sounds nice.
Squish up together in the same bowl, finished
XXXX. Oh, said Robin, looking a bit queasy. Perhaps not.
Suit yourself.
XXXX grinned.
That's what I have for my starter on Mondays. They say on Doosbury that it's best to get your 55 a day, from all 5 food groups on all 11 inhabited planets. I'm a bit behind right now, actually, if you excuse me.
And XXXX scoffed down 5 no-warm burgers, the whole. How doesn't he explode, Robin whispered to us. Ignore him, said Lando hastily. Doosbury is a gas giant planet, but formed differently to ours. The Doosburys need more fuel to sustain themselves than we do. Oddly enough, I don't think he eats enough. He's a bit thin for a Doosbury Giant, he whispered, unsensitive about his weight. He has always been told he's too thin.
You all look a bit thin to us,
said XXXX apologetically.
Especially you humans in the ration aren't. Why don't you break in two when you walk on those sprinting little legs?
Here,
said Archelaus, reaching out with some food in his spare robotic arm.
I can only remember a minority of the foodstuffs that were mentioned, but I ascertain that this will be acceptable for a first meal. And don't worry, I'm including everything on separate plates.
Thank you, said Robin hungrily. Wait, has everyone finished theirs already?
Only some of us,
said Bettina haughtily.
Some of us have better things to do and places to go. Come on, gang.
Half the class got up and left, leaving Robin, Lando, Hermione, Margalo, XXXXX and me. XXXXX had by now moved on to a pudding that looked a little bit like baked Alaska, but was big enough to be the size of the state it was named after. Margalo and Lando were eating silently. Hermione had gone to sleep in her curry and seemed to be making strange bubbly noises. Robin raised a concerned eyebrow at us. It's a special Habridat curry, Lando explained. It reheats itself every few minutes when its owner invariably falls asleep. Is she? Asked Robin. It's all perfectly natural. Throughout the Habridat constitution anyway, Lando continued. Habridat is a planet with a really hot sun, so Habridats are used to taking multiple siestas in the day, often without warning. She really struggles to cope with the 40-hour days and relative lack of sunlight here, poor thing. It really messes up her body clock. Hermione fell asleep in Mrs. Magrumph's lessons 18 times last term. She nearly went apoplectic. Then again, it's also boring. Even I fell asleep in it 3 times, and I'm not a Habridat. Does this all taste a bit metallic to you? Asked Robin between mouthfuls of the cereal. Artificial. Food replicators, I guess, shrugged Lando. We didn't have them on Ziggurat's free either, and this food always tasted a bit odd to me too. XXXXX stopped mid-bowlful.
No, but we have them. Well, food doesn't taste like any that I remember. I've tried every manufacturer of replicator machine, and I've never known one with food that tasted like this before. Do you remember me telling you? over and over.
hissed Hermione sarcastically from within her curry bowl. Robin asked hesitantly, "Is it safe to eat? I take it."
It must be.
Margalo said.
Oh, they won't let us eat it, won't they? They're probably just bought a machine on the cheap. I don't know if you noticed, but this Orpheus really doesn't have much money. We are so very lucky to be here.
"Can I ask you," said Robin in between mouthfuls, "what's up with the one with 3 heads? She seems a bit hostile."
Oh, take no notice of Bettina.
Lando said. "She was inextricably fond of our previous form tutor. Well, we all were. I'm afraid she rather blames you for his loss." Robin looked sad. "What did I do exactly?" Lando smiled. "You were right. That was enough in her eyes. Belobrats aren't known for being easygoing. Between you and me, this one has more problems than most, I think. She's very sweet underneath it, though, just a bit insecure. She's used to hiding behind other, louder personalities, but here she thinks she has to lead everyone just because she's a Belobrat."
You just think everyone's sweet,"
complained Hermione, her head still in her curry. Margalo snorted.
You don't have to do anything. That's just Bettina. She gets off until half about anything. Sometimes it's my full turn.
Only with you.
XXXXX said.
She's all right with the rest of us.
It's not my fault when I was a teacher.
Said Margalo.
I'm the best teacher in the school at that, and I'll tell anything any of you say that's bad.
"Why can't the old teacher teach his class anymore?" asked Robin quickly, diffusing the row. "He's not qualified for working with more than 10 aliens," said Lando. "Or with humans. They're the rarest sort of training to get intergalactically after all. So he's been moved to the planning department." "Oh," said Robin, "I'm sorry. He seemed really nice. A far more natural teacher. No offence," she added quickly as she saw Margalo begin to flare her nostrils. "I wasn't keen on coming here myself, to be honest. But it all happened so fast." "Don't worry, we understand," said Lando, putting his arms around the Earth girl. "We've all been through it at one time or another. It's bad enough losing your family, but losing your home planet is a bit much on top." "I just still don't understand why." Robin seemed about to cry despite Avow's strength. "I mean, I didn't have any other family. I'm sure someone from Earth would have taken me in, instead of coming all the way out here. I've heard we're here to save money for our own government, but surely it's just as expensive to fly us all the way out here."
It's all part of the great intergalactic experiment.
Said Hermione, temporarily lifting her head out of food.
We're the first generation to be brought up by the intergalactic state rather than the planetary state. It's all part of seeing if our 11 species all benefit from learning alongside each other, or not, paid for by each of the planets in such full quantities that they all barely notice individually. In fact, when they all get to avoid individual responsibility if something goes wrong too. That's food for thought,
Nodded XXXXX, spelling everyone's names out in his bowl of intergalactic alphabet soup.
You're so relentlessly cynical,
complained Margalo.
Thank you,
Said Hermione huffily.
That's a compliment where I come from. I'm fed up of everyone being reasonable and nice all the time.
She looked over at Lando.
Not you, Verlands, old. Clandusprod kindness isn't the same as Habridat nonchalance.
Clandusprod grinned. Mostly, it doesn't work, sighed Lando. That bit about us learning better as a collective, I mean. The trouble is, we're all at different levels on every subject, you see, and by the time the slowest of us, which is usually me, catches up with brainy people in each particular class, that's Archibald and Elfrida, feel let down. They're both geniuses in their different ways, but Elfrida is a bit of a loner, and Archie's a child prodigy, but, well, with the emphasis on child sometimes. Why don't they divide us up into species? Asked Robin, between mouthfuls of the beans on toast. For the most part, they thought dividing us by age would be better. I hear they wanted to study us, as no one had ever tried anything like that before. That must be why there are so many recording devices, monitors and microphones around, but the teachers always go pale and shut up when we ask about it. There are probably heaps of recordings somewhere. Yes, I was wondering about them, said Robin, pointing to a microphone hanging from a cable in the ceiling. So we're guinea pigs? Margalo looked puzzled.
I'm the grunt.
Oh, said Robin, sorry, an Earth expression. Guinea pigs look a lot like Glabdiharbits. Actually, a lot like Glabdiharbits, but really they're mostly like pikers. Only scientists used to experiment on guinea pigs to practice doing things to humans. Lando looked worried. Don't talk about that to Jake, whatever you do. That will make his night terrors 1,000 times worse. They're pretty bad already, poor thing. Oh, I won't, stammered Robin hurriedly.
Wait, we had one of those, didn't we?
Hermione asked Lando.
Before one's others turned up. It was our school pet before we were given blotchy. I much prefer the algebra. The guinea pig didn't do a lot, to be honest, just suck baronet vegetables. I mean, I could certainly watch XXXXX do that without so much effort.
Oi,
Said XXXXX, comfort eating an eclair. What happened to it? Asked Robin. Hermione shrugged.
One day it wasn't there anymore. The teacher said we lost it, but I think we got rid of it. He was acting strangely towards the end, poor thing. He was always hot and seemed to be supercharged up as if he had lots of energy. It's odd because he was such a thick thing too, until that last day when he suddenly became super intelligent. He was getting more answers right on tests than Lando was.
Oi, said Lando, comfort eating one of XXXXX's eclairs. Well, I'm sure you won't be the slowest in the class now I'm here, Robin grinned at Lando, trying to defuse the situation. They always said I was the thickest in my class too. Oh, I don't think I'm stupid. Some teachers used to think I was quite bright, even if I never showed up on my school reports. That would be nice not to be lost all the time, smiled Lando back. Oh, I'm sure you won't be. I was trained for an entertainment artistic clan, not an educational one, so I didn't get too much education beyond the general, and most of what we learned doesn't apply to this planet. I'm a bit behind everyone else. I just can't get my head round Mekkion mathematics or Doosbury cookery and Agrosian military drill and Mrasianart yoga and 1,000 other things I won't ever need once I leave school.
That's true for the educational system universally, though.
Hermione joined in, rinsing her feathers as she drained her bowl.
We all know it's just one gigantic babysitting service, really, to keep us busy so our parents or guardians are free to gain fit for employment.
One thing's good about the system, though, said Lando, pouring out some Clandusprod tea and offering it round. We classmates have all become very close these past few weeks, almost in some cases. Marcelo laughed bitterly at this. Well, most of us have anyway, Lando continued. It's very like the way it felt in my old clan cave at home, actually. Each of us has a bond forged with each other that no one can break. We are always looking after each other, because each other are all we have.
Alfreda calls that the real lessons learned during our time here.
Hermione added.
She's the irritating know-it-all one that looks like a giant insect. She says we should ignore the small details and concentrate on the bigger picture, that we're learning things about cooperation and teamwork, stuff like that. She's a bit up herself, is Elfrida. She's very bright though, good to copy off if you get too stuck. She's always happy to share her work, not like some grumps I could mention.
Margalo turned her back on us and slurped a green, blue and roulette-coloured fruit salad.
my work, my rules. I can't help but boast of you fools.
She huffed. There's no iron team but two intergalactic, said Lando, doing quote marks with his hooves and laughing.
It's a typical intergalactic peace organisation, my dear.
Hermione said, getting into a stride.
Getting pupils from all planets together on one planet sounds like a great idea on paper, but in practice, not so much.
Things have gone downhill since we joined presidency of Alaron and Geraldine.
Well, said Lando, slurping the last of his tea out the spout of his teapot, if you're all finished, I think you should go and wake the caretaker up and get your things, Robin.
Just going to the bathroom. Don't wait for me,
said XXXXX anxiously as the rest of us walked out of the dining room.
I'm off too,
said Margalo.
See ya.
Wouldn't want to be
here.
Where are they going? Robin asked us. Hermione and I shrugged. XXXX, bathroom, said Lando. Best not to ask. As for Margalo, no one knows. She just disappeared. It must be somewhere back with the staff, but she never tells us where it is. We've never been able to follow her because she's the only pupil allowed through the door. We thought she was hanging out with her mum at first, but they barely seem to exchange any words with each other from what I can tell. It's a mystery, but she's only ever here for lessons and meal times. She never joins in with our games. Come on, Robin, let's go and show you the little bit of the school we're allowed in, but you haven't actually seen yet. caretaker, Horace, was oddly taciturn for a Habridat. We teased Hermione sometimes that she would grow up like him, but we only half meant it. Both of them had an intensity and fierceness that seemed at odds with such laid-back species that took so many naps. If I didn't know better, I would have said that he was part Maggrumph. He looked us up and down as we stood in front of him, asking for his help with the bags that had been unceremoniously dumped at the front door along with Robin. Well, all of us except Bettina and Margalo, who was sulking elsewhere, and XXXX, who was still in the bathroom.
Is no one going to offer to carry these bags for me?
Complained Horace.
Oh, my big Gossels playing up something wrong, so it is.
Lando reached forward to pick one up.
What are you doing?
Exploded the caretaker.
Your hooves off. Only I'm allowed to touch these bags. Well, me and their owner.
He handed one to Robin, who, despite it being a small bag, buckled and wobbled under the weight. He then hurried on inside.
Make it quick because there's a storm coming soon. I can feel it in my tibio tarsus, so I can. No wee shuffle. Oh.
Right on cue, the skies of Orpheus started bucketing it down. Lando looked at the rest of us and shrugged. You haven't got very much here, Penguin, which is sad for you, but looking at the positives means it won't be long to shift this lot, and we won't get very wet.
Always looking on the bright side, even though it's really sun, it's just a tiny bit less dark,
muttered Hermione as we trooped behind the caretaker, shuffling along at a slow pace. I wasn't allowed to bring much with me, sniffled Robin. I didn't have much time to collect it either. It seems so cruel to lose so many of your things when you lose someone, as if all your memories are being buried with the people you lost. Lando hugged her. I know how you feel, he said. It was the same with me. I didn't have much to begin with, but I wasn't allowed to bring half of that.
Me too,
said Squash.
It makes me really mad. Nash. And yet, when we were stripped of all possessions, one's emotional baggage becomes all the greater,
said Elfrida wisely. She then called inside.
Are you going to help put this away, Bettina? We'll get it all done quicker if you do.
The Belobrat in the doorway stuck out 3 tongues.
Why should I?
Robin suddenly dropped a bag which split on impact with the floor and Squash's foot and went everywhere. Bettina looked up and laughed.
Alien algebra, if you're clumsy. Having problems with the opposable thumbs there, Penguin?
Hermione and Squash joined in the laughter, Squash dancing a sort of travel wall dance.
That seems the logical thing to have done after carrying the belongings all the way here.
Sniffed Archulus.
Fact.
Robin had turned 3 shades of red and purple and was very nearly through to Roulet. Stupid body, she said, flying in a rage. I thought it was going to be different this time, on a new planet and a new me. But no, my stupid body has to get in the way. Why does this always happen when I'm in a hurry? The more I concentrate, the worse it gets. Now everything is going to get soaked, and I don't even know if my things will stand up to whatever acid-style rain we have on this dismal planet. She kicked her stuff so that it fell over and got even soggier. Most of the class seemed to be laughing, so, eyes red, Robin marched over to the far end where her belongings had scattered the furthest, and stayed with her eyes resolutely stuck to the floor. Archulus wheeled himself over to her and loomed while the rest of us picked things up. I suppose you're going to tell me I'm being illogical, said Robin to Archulus. You'd be right, by the way. I am. But humans can't help being emotional, rather than logical like Mekkions.
Are you ready for a secret?
Said Archulus, hovering a little way off the ground in his anti-gravitational boots.
I'm not all biological. For Mekkion, I mean.
Robin looked confused. Oh?
On my head was funny they laughed at me for being emotional. I kept bursting my fuses. They're meant to last a lifetime, but every time I get a strong feeling in reaction to some outward stimuli, the circuits regulating my emotional controls blow.
Oh, said Robin. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
That's because I haven't had a chance to tell you yet,
said Archulus.
Fact. Anyway, we know that humans are some of the most emotional species out there, so I just wanted to say, I understand, and I don't blame you. This is a major life change you've just been through, and one you didn't ask for. It's logical you should be emotional right now. Let me help you pick these things up.
Thank you, said Robin in relief, more at being understood than for the help with her belongings. Lando had already collected a pile and handed them to Robin, and got a thank you too. It's all right, said Lando quickly, giving Robin a hug. We've got you. Well, some of us have got you anyway. Ignore the idiots laughing over there. I'm clumsy too, on account of being so big I get stuck indoors when I waddle. You shouldn't have that problem being uttered, she sighs though. There's barely anything of you to knock things over. Yet I still do. I hope things might be different on a new planet with new gravity. I guess some things follow you everywhere. Robin let out a long, slow, disillusioned sigh. Then she looked up at the caretaker, who had barely moved at all, and all but sobbed. Now I'm about to lose the few possessions I still had to the rain, which really does seem to be partly acid by the look of what it's doing to everything. How are we going to pick all these things up before they get soaked? I've got an idea, said Elfrida, and she began speaking in the loudest voice she could manage. I'll donate my leftover pudding to whoever manages to pick up the biggest amount of Robin's things from off the floor. Leftover pudding, said XXXXX, rushing out the bathroom to outside and scooping up as many documents in his arms as he could. There, whispered Elfrida. I knew that would do the trick. Look at him go. Before too long, everything that belonged to Robin had been rescued from the ground and wasn't too soggy. Horace had finally wandered off, complaining about rheumatism in his phalanges. XXXX dumped the last of the belongings in the hallway by the solar thermal radiators and received Elfrida's pudding, which she admitted she didn't like very much. I wasn't surprised, as it seemed to consist of worms and gravy, and in return received a grateful hug from Robin. Thank you, said the human. Elfrida looked down at the human in surprise. Don't you do hugs? Asked Robin. Sorry, I'm still learning. No, carry on, said Elfrida, flustered. It's nice. I just don't think anyone's ever hugged me before. I tried to get Archulus to do it once. It didn't go very well. I never bothered again. And thank you too, Robin said to XXXX, who was washing his hands in the sink. My pleasure, said XXXXX, licking her like a cat. That is the Earth custom, isn't it? Close enough, laughed Robin, but a bit less sticky. She beamed at everyone round the room. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry about my outburst. I feel better now. More human. No problem, smiled Lando. Culture shock. It happened to us all. Wait, said Bettina, having dropped a three-headed scowl long enough to glance at Robin's things. Is that a collection of intergalactic trading cards? Yes, smiled Robin. I've got nearly a full sticker hologram book now. It's my pride and joy. Oh, only most of the stickers seem to have fallen out and got muddled when I dropped them. Why, who else has cards? To her surprise, all of us had. Well, everyone except Margalo, as Bettina pointed out. She's far too up her own antlers to understand. Really, Robin continued. Why? It seems such a human thing to do, putting bits of coloured paper inside books. She went round the room. It's great. You get to quote statistics and have battles, said Squash. Bash, da-da-da-da-da-da, bash. They are fun. I like the bright colours, said Hermione. To be competitive, shrugged Bettina. To have something to swap with my friends, said Lando. So that I get to have a fleeting feeling of being powerful when I use one of my cards with special stats, squeaked Jake. I murmured something about collections and hoped no one would look at me or interact with me. So that I can imagine what the battles all look like in my head, shrugged Elfrida. Although I don't collect many sports cards. I've got a different sticker book to the rest of you. Look, the Mrasianart sticker book of politicians from around the universe. Everyone groaned. They're just men and women in suits who talk a lot, moaned Bettina. What's the point in collecting pictures of them? They all look the same anyway. Trust you to do something so mind-boggling, boring and different to everyone else. Well, said Elfrida in a huff, I think people trying to create peace and heal the planet are a lot more important than someone who can just kick a ball really far. It's not, it's two. It's not, it's two. It's not, it's two. They taste groovy, said XXXXX, taking a munch out of his card. Do even you collect stickers, Archulus? Asked Robin. She had the feeling that Mekkion wouldn't be interested in what was, after all, a children's game. To her surprise, though, Archulus had the biggest collection of all. I like collecting things too, he shrugged, at least as much as it's possible to do with robotic limbs. The thoroughness of checking all the numbers gives me a sense of safety and completion, but I have control over making things whole in my life. Plus I become a little obsessed learning all the stats on the back by heart, so I didn't have to think about other stuff. His voice trailed off. Whenever I used to get sad, I used to ask my adopted family for another card. So saying, he poured out his collection onto the floor. Whoa, said Robin, you must have got sad a lot. I was, he said simply but sadly, and his robotic shoulders drooped. How about you? He asked Robin. I saw her hesitate, as if weighing up whether to drop a card with us the way Archibald just had, looking for signs as to whether this was all the big leg pull. After all, Archibald had no legs that she could see, and I could tell that made her nervous, and whether he was about to laugh at her. Finally she chose to join in. Because I wanted to be known at my old school as something other than the girl who was always clumsy. Trading card girl sounded much better. Your collection? Asked Archibald, his whole face lighting up. Would you like me to sort them for you? If so, how? In numerical order, alphabetical, by species, colour, or by the size of a hair, or by sport, by the stat of... Let's see, how many pancakes they can eat in one sitting for breakfast? Numerical, I guess, so I can file them away later, said Robin. But anyway, it's good, thank you. My pleasure, said Archibald, beaming. Making order out of chaos is what I do best. In no time at all, his robotic extra limbs were a blur as he tugged this way and that until, within minutes, there was a large sorted collection of cards on the floor. Wow, said Robin, that would have taken me hours. No problem, puffed Archibald. I love the satisfaction when everything is in its place, and every place is in its, everything. Any swapses? Said Bettina, eyeing the pile with 6 beady eyes. If there is, why should she give you any? Asked Hermione. You didn't exactly help earlier. I'll swap back, said Bettina, ferreting in a locker. Wait, I've got several cards you might want. Bone Crusher Belobrat. He's scary, chimed in Jake with a shudder. The Masked Maggrumph. She's scary, shuddered Jake with a chime. The Mrasianart Mauler. She's terrifying, squeaked Jake. The Mekkion Muncher. It's petrifying, said Jake. The Glabdiharbit Growler. He's quite sweet, actually, said Jake. I used to know him. You did, said Bettina. Did he know you? A little, squeaked Jake. Fabulous, said Bettina, slapping him on the tail. Get me an autograph, would you? Talking to celebrities, scary, started Jake. But I'll see what I can do. I think I have all those, confessed Robin. I have some spare cards I'll gladly hand out for free, though. I got 14 woo-woo-woos, cards exclusive to Earth. I could give you each one of those. Yes, please, breathed in XXXX. She's my favourite foosball player. She's such an amazing gymnast. She's so amazing and flexible and light on her feet. She can do anything. She pioneered the Doosbury athlete diet. All those carbohydrates she burns off, not many calories. Her foosball reaction rate is 0.0042 seconds. That's an intergalactic record. Here you go then, smiled Robin, handing a card over. And thank you again for your help. Anyone else? Soon we were all holding a woo-woo-woo card. It feels like we're in a real clan of our own now, smiled Lando. The clan of, owning the same card, he finished feebly. Hey, I know what we could do, said Bettina, suddenly all friendly with Robin. That school trip that's coming up for the species winners of the Team Points contest is to the Intergalactic Peace Museum on Decreeta, right? Well, that's where the international sporting fields are, aren't they? Well, how about we sneak away from those boring old exhibits and see some of those athletes from our trading cards? Maybe Woo-Woo-Woo will be there and sign our cards for us. Whichever one of us gets enough points to go could get autographs of the rest of us. I know we're only meant to go if we win that stupid competition, but whoever gets to go on the trip could sneak the rest of us on board the shuttle in some way. Well, said Hermione sceptically, I don't think any of us are going to win, are we? None of us are in the teacher's good books, depending on what the other classes are doing, of course. The face clouded over. There even is another class, of course. I still say it's odd we've never seen or heard them, even at night. Anyway, the Magrubs are bound to win, aren't they, given that one of them is a teacher. She really doesn't want to let us go for some reason. Too much work for her if we go on a trip, I guess. I looked her like that, but always telling us to work harder than taking the easy route out of things. You and your suspicions, joked Bettina. What happened to being a laid-back Habridat? I've seen too much to be trusting, said Hermione sparingly. Well, said Archibald thoughtfully, if Robin is the first human here, as we've been led to believe, then surely she's on 0 points. So she must be the closest. The rest of us are on minus figures. Logically, all she has to do to win is stay there or higher. I shouldn't think Margalo is too far ahead of her. Factoid? He asked hopefully. It's worth a try, said Bettina firmly. Well done, Penguin. Oh, but I don't think started Robin, but before she could refuse the offer, Bettina was off again. The Olympics was the best idea the Earth ever had, said Bettina beaming. I can't believe we've never had an intergalactic games before. Just think, all those species competing against each other in so many sports, all those athletes we've seen on the BCBC, on their home planets, all in one place together. Stuff, peace and cooperation. Thousands of athletes competing to beat everyone else is the way to go. It's way more exciting. I hear you humans go in for sports in a big way. You must be amazingly athletic yourself, Penguin. Not really, admitted Robin. I'm better watching it than doing it. I have this really annoying habit of losing my balance and falling over, or bumping into things when I don't want to. Not that I ever want to think about it, she corrected herself. Lando patted her on the back kindly. It must be hard on those spindly little legs. I always think evolution was particularly cruel to humans. Oh, said Robin, no, this is a me thing, not a species thing. Dyspraxia it's called. I'm told it's the circuits in my head that misfire, so I don't fully know where my body is. Basically, it's spending your whole life watching things fall over, not having a clue what caused it, or knocking into stuff because you're not where you think you are. Some sort of synapse malfunction in the brain, I think, so my body is never where I think it is. She dropped the pile she just picked up and sighed. It's very irritating. You never get a day off from it. I would explain it to you more, but then I don't really understand it myself, or how I got like this. But your body's right there, said Bettina. Or a human's one of those species that's only partly visible, with a hidden tail or something. No, said Robin, blushing, but that's what it feels like sometimes. I mean, my body isn't where I think it is. I'll go to reach for something and miss it, or think I'm cutting round some lines and find I've missed the paper altogether. Stupid stuff like that.
Why?
Asked Archelaus. That sounds illogical to me.
It is, said Robin with feeling. That doesn't stop it happening, though. I could give you a long, boring explanation as to why that is. I don't really understand it myself, to be honest. It just kind of is. And I wish it wasn't. So anyway, I'm more likely to fall over if I try to be athletic, or miss entirely if it's something that needs precision. Bags are on the other team in PE then, said Hermione sarcastically. Oh, said Robin, her face falling. I didn't have to do much at my old school. Do you still have to do PE here? Sometimes. The teachers wanted to measure how we reacted to exercise, or something. I don't care about results. You could be on my team, said Lando, putting his arm round Robin, while Bettina stuck her tongues out again. Or I can be on your team. We can be on the same team. We only play for fun and the teacher's benefit anyway, so taking part would count. Hermione laughed at this. Lando, you're such a Clandusprod. You don't have to be nice all the time, you know. Lando sighed. It is true that Clandusprods are very bad at competitive sports, so I don't think we would do very well these games. We always feel so sorry for whichever team is coming in last, so we let them go past to make them feel better. You must be good at team sports though, said Robin. Lando's face lit up at this. Why, yes, we are, he said. Our tug-of-war team is amazing. We took the Belobrats out like Skittles last year. His face fell, though I was rather sorry about that. Anyway, said Bettina, clearly annoyed at having the good names of Belobrats besmirched, let's do something with these stickers. A while and a refresh of pens later, and we were all gathered round the big kitchen table. Well, I say we were all gathered round it. Being a Glabdiharbit, Jake, of course, was gathered under it, while XXXX was back in the bathroom again, and Margalo had gone somewhere mysterious. She was the only one with privileged access behind the scenes. We were all desperate to know what it was like. Most of the class had their trading stickers out. I know we should probably be helping you get adjusted and give you your own space and all that nonsense, said Bettina, but trading cards are far more important. Now, which version of the game do we play? Seeing as they're Robin's cards, we should play with our human athletes first, said Hermione. All right, said Bettina. Empire rules, though, Ops. Sorry, said Robin, confused. What are Empire rules? I don't think I've played any version except the Earth one. It's my derivation of the rules, said Bettina. You don't have to stick to an athlete's planet of origin, but their empire. Like, for instance, humans have colonised Venus, Mars and Pluto, so you can have athletes from there as well as Earth if you want. Oh, and human athletes are a mutual planet not ruled by anyone, like Decreeta, or his Ensconce, the trump cards.
"Or Orpheus," said Hermione. "Colin even drew a unique card for each of us." I felt rather proud as she held them out to show the class. "You can tell which of us has them because they're an entirely different colour to the rest of the pack," she whispered to Robin, thinking I couldn't hear. "But we just pretend not to notice. I'm sure I'll draw one for you too." "Oh," said Robin. "OK, that sounds fair." I looked Robin up and down and made some quick sketches. I gave her a concentration statistic of 4, a dexterity stat of -3, an agility stat of -10, with a perseverance stat of 500. Robin looked at it and smiled at me. "Not a bad likeness, in drawing all statistics," she said, patting me on the tail. She skimmed through the other cards. "Wait, Bettina seems to have maximum stats in all categories." "Only the one she's added with a pen," whispered Lando. "We ignore them when we play, but it makes her feel good." Robin looked at the hidden perseverance rating of -20 and stifled a giggle. Hermione grinned, but whispered in Robert's ear, so quiet that only my greatest eavesdropping abilities allow me to hear them. "A friendly warning. You'll be okay if you're both playing humans, but I fear Bettina might just be suckering you in. Beware if you play humans on Belobrats later. The Belobrats have colonised way more planets than anyone else. We've learnt the hard way and lost a lot of cards." Robin grinned. "Thanks." "Oh," said Bettina, her head frowning. "Hermione, you spoilt it now." "You can't fleece the new girl out of her cards on the first night," said Lando. "All right," said Bettina, shrugging. "I'll do it another way. I'll wait till the second night then." The game was intense and passed by in a flurry of statistics, noise and giggling. For all her bluster, Bettina went out in the first round and sat for the remainder of the game with all 3 arms folded. The others soon followed, leaving Archelaus versus Robin in the final. The human won easily in the end. Everyone congratulated her, except Bettina, who was sulking. "I'm really a very good player," she said. "I just had a really bad hand, OK? 3 of them, in fact. What am I meant to do with 2 Glabdiharbit kayakers, 3 human tiddlywinks players, a Doosbury pancake caber tosser and a Maggrumph welly wrangler? I'm much better at this usually. Honest." Wanting to change the subject, Robin collected the newly won stickers and asked, "So how old is everyone?" "I'm 10. 700. 3 months. 1,000. A week. 32 minutes. 8 billion years. Wait, what?" asked Robin. Elfrida explained. "I think everyone is using their own calendar. It depends how many times our planets have been round the sun, you see. Only for some planets their month is longer than their year, depending on how many satellites revolve around them. Some even have really long minutes because that's how it was easiest to divide their years up. Let's use Decreeta as our base measurement and synchronise our calendars." To my amazement, we were all approximately 27 in Decreeta years, 332 in Camalosian years, or 10 in Earth years. "Oh, get Archelaus to work out the maths," said Bettina. "One of us must be oldest. I bet it's me." Archelaus consulted his calculator, asked us all questions about the days in our year, tapped a few buttons, and looked pleased with himself. "Actually, Bettina, you're the youngest, though not by much. Elfrida's the oldest." Bettina's face fell. "Should have guessed," grinned Hermione. "Why?" asked Robin innocently. Bettina answered, "Oh, Elfrida always seems older than a year somehow. She tends to be the one we send in if we've done something bad and need a go-between for the grown-ups. She's the closest to being one of them, if that's not a dirty word, and seeing things from their point of view. Just the other day she intervened when the caretaker was getting stroppy about how many balls were being kicked over the high fence round the school, and he had to bring them back. I only lost 5 of them, I tell you, which isn't bad going considering the amount of amazingly bang-on shots I made. And anyway, the balls were all wonky, that's all. Elfrida ended up talking to him in such a grown-up way, explaining about us being children cooped up and that there would be more damage inside if he didn't let us run around madly outside, but by the end he was applauding our common sense. She's good at things like that." Elfrida brushed a lovely shade of roulet and pushed some imaginary glasses back down her nose, a habit she often had when embarrassed. "How do you talk like that?" asked Robin. "To the teachers, I mean, 1-to-1. I never could. I might as well have been talking to, well, aliens, present company accepted." Elfrida looked confused. "I don't know, I just do." "How though?" asked Lando. "I mean, I could stand there being nice and my own brand of grown-up and pontificating like an adult Clandusprod all day and they wouldn't know what to say to me, but you, they almost treated you like an equal. Almost." Well, said Elfrida, squirming, if you really want to know, I never felt much like a little kid, you know. I've always felt about 7,000, curmudgeonly aged, by Orpheus years, I mean. That was quite a huge burden to carry when I was very young. As the years go by and I grow old, though, it doesn't seem like such a gulf anymore. I feel myself getting younger with wisdom, now I grow used to it. Hermione laughed. You old? You're a flipping kid. Elfrida batted her unset wings. You're as old as you feel. Sometimes I feel very old, as if the weight of the universe is on my back. Briefly she looked like it too, with such an intense stare I had to look away. So where is Orpheus exactly? Asked Robin, trying to diffuse another argument. I wasn't taking much in on my way here. I can get my star charts out if you like, asked Archelaus, but Bettina groaned. Don't let him do that, whatever you do. He can go on for hours, and we get enough of that in class. Remember what we agreed? Learning outside the classroom is banned. Oh, said the Mekkion, stamping his wheels. You're no fun. And she did ask. Give her the short version, Archie, was Lando's recommendation. Well, the Mekkion continued, where we are is really relative depending on the proximity of where you are. To Earth, asked Robin. I want to know how far away home is from here. Not far, said Archelaus. Maybe 12 million light years or so. We're in your backyard, really. Oh, said Robin. That trip in the shuttle seemed to take forever. Well, how far had you travelled in your life before, then? The Mekkion asked. Robin shrugged. The next town to my village? That was a whole entire bus ride away. Archelaus shrugged. Relativity. I rest my case. So, asked Robin again, what else is on this planet? Besides the school, I mean. Said Hermione. They call this a planet, but really it's just a rock floating in space, just far enough out of eyeshot that all the other planets don't have to look at us. None of us really know, said Bettina. None of us have been able to go outside. Well, only up to the gate out there at the end of the yard and round to the caretaker's office. Well, that's not very far. I've just thought, said Robin, looking up. There are no windows here, anywhere. Actually, there is, chimed in Elfrida, but it's right up high, so only those of us who can fly can see it. Not that you can see much. I've tried. She looked sad. How I yearn to go outside. Why don't you just fly over the fence? Asked Robin. Tried that, said Hermione. It was electrified. It fried my feathers. The back ones still haven't quite grown back yet. They want to keep us in that badly they'd hurt us? Asked Robin. I mean, our old school on Earth had lots of keep out and danger signs, but we didn't cause pain. They say there are rogue Archbroths out there, squeaked Jake, all covered in this red dye that no one can wash off. They're mad, and they're after our blood. Glabdiharbits don't have any blood, pointed out Archelaus. Oh no, wailed Jake, they've taken it already. I'm a goner. He collapsed on the floor, theatrically. Hand-riding Habridats, no, you ridiculous verbal. It doesn't work like that. Wrong biological system, Bettina spluttered. How long were you all here before me? Asked Robin, diffusing yet another argument. She was getting good at this. Absolutely ages, said Bettina. You've been here 2 months, said Archelaus. Same as me. Well, said Bettina, that is absolutely ages. I was here first, said Elfrida sadly. 9 whole weeks. I had no one to talk to for the first 2. Colin's only been here 5 days, said Lando. He's the newest. Our median time spent on this planet is approximately 3.5 weeks, said Archelaus, prodding again at his calculator. What I said, added Bettina. Absolutely ages. I mean, 8 whole weeks. That's practically as summer holidays, and they last so long I'm practically begging to go back to school by the end of them. As if I'd do that now. I'd gladly never go back to school ever again. That's a thought, said Elfrida. What are they going to do with us during the holidays? We don't have homes to go back to now. I suppose we just stay here, learning, said Archelaus. That's what would happen if this was a boarding school and we were orphans, which it kind of is. Spending all our time here, without a break? That might just be the most frightening thought anyone has ever had, said Jake, rolling himself up into a ball at Robin's feet and nibbling his shoelaces. The holidays seem a long way off, murmured Robin. By now her new classmate was getting sleepy, the events of the day hitting her. You know, she said, smiling, if I close my eyes, you're all exactly like my class at home, just different colours and sizes. Hermione chose that moment to fall asleep on the floor with a loud clatter, which startled Blotchy into running away, pulling Lander, who was holding his lead, into Archulus's lap, and upsetting the calculus he had out on the table, which landed on XXXXX's foot, and upset his collection of cream buns, which landed on top of Squash, who ran round the table twice madly before banging straight into Bettina and causing her to fall on top of Hermione, waking her up with a scream before the whole lot fell on top of Squash. In the midst of this, Elfrida stared at the walls, lost in thought, oblivious to all the noise and confusion going on around her. "Well, almost like my class at home," continued Robin with a giggle. She reached over and helped the others up. "And there I was expecting that I would be the first to fall over in front of you all," she said. "Modify Mekkions on mopeds, Hermione. Watch what you're doing," said Bettina. "You started it," she said sleepily. "Well, if I did, I meant to do that, and I did it better than anybody," Bettina huffed. "It's Belobrat gymnastics." Mrs. Maggrumph came into the room and slammed the door. "What an absolute mess! You should all be revising for your tests. This is all beyond my comprehension. Any more noise and you shall all have detention. Now, which of you take responsibility for all the mess that I can see?" "It was an accident," said Bettina. "What do you expect when 11 different species and an Argybrath get together in one small room?" Mrs. Maggrumph stared her out. "None of your lip, missy, and I know well you've got 6. If you say any more, you'll be in a fix." "It's all my fault," said Robin suddenly. "They were trying to welcome me and introduce me to Blotchy. I think I scared him without meaning to. I'm very sorry." Mrs. Maggrumph looked satisfied. "All right, but go and chain him up again outside," she went on muttering. "I don't know, my patience has been very sorely tried." Lander got up to take Blotchy out. He looked sad. "Don't worry," he whispered to me. "There's a gap in the door he gets through that we don't know about. We've taught him how to get out of his chains. Clever, eh?" "Quick thinking there, Penguin, thank you. You know," said Bettina, linking arms with a human, "you aren't how I thought you'd be at all. We heard that humans were as stuck up as the Magrumps and as isolationists as the Mrasianarts, but you've been really open to all of our quirks so far. I'm almost beginning to like you." "No more than you've been to mine," nodded Robin shyly. "I still can't believe I dropped all my belongings like that earlier." "You couldn't help it," said Lander. "We've all got something wrong with us." "Have not," said Bettina. "You have more wrong with you than the rest of us," said Lander. "Have not, have to. Have not, have to. Have not, have to. Besides," said Robin, trying to interrupt, "Earth isn't the way it was even a century ago. All the species mix really freely now. There are hybrids on every corner of Earth now, or so they say. Never really made it to the corner of my village, though. Do you know, I never saw a non-human face at all till today. I was so scared of you all, but you've been really kind." "What, all of us? Even Margalo?" asked Hermione, raising her feathery eyebrows. "Well, no," admitted Robin. "I mean, not yet." "That must have been some culture shock," grinned Elfrida. "I'm one of a few of what we call purebloods left on Mars now. There's been so many interspecies relationships." "It was a shock," said Robin, "but a good one. I used to have an imaginary friend growing up who was made up of all the species in the universe, meaning they changed every time I needed something specific. The Clandusprods held me, the Glabdiharbits were there with me when I was scared. I had midnight feasts with the Doosbury Giant, I took naps with Habridat, the Mekkion and the Camalosian helped me with my homework, the Agrosian terrified my school bullies for me in my head, and I acted out plays with the Mrasianart." "But most of the time they're a Belobrat, right?" asked Bettina. "Because we're the best." "My Belobrat gives me confidence when I need it," said Robin. "Why, only today in the shuttle I was remembering them and wondering what they would tell me to say. I still terrify myself walking in through the doors, though." "Quite right too," said Bettina. "I'm perfect." Robin giggled. "Do you know, that might be the first time I've heard you truly boast since I got here. I thought you Belobrats did that all the time." "Wait," said Bettina, shocked. "So I did. Well, well, I must be getting better." "Better?" asked Robin, concerned. "Oh," said Bettina dismissively, "some dumb therapist on Helisphere said I was shy and humble. I think we all know that's not true." Robin shrugged her shoulders. "For a human, no. For a Belobrat, maybe." Bettina shrugged. "We're all the same now, aren't we? After all this time. I mean, it's been, 350, 400 years ago now since the humans and Clandusprods first got in contact with each other. There aren't species in the universe as such, but individuals. I kind of like it that way. One day even Argybrass will be sentient enough to join in with the rest of the known universe. There was a loud woof from outside. You know, Bettina continued, is it just me, or is old Blotcher here getting more intelligent every time we talk to him? Robin shrugged. I hope he doesn't evolve too much. He's kind of cute. Bettina laughed and called outside. He's the cutest Argybrass in the whole wide universe, isn't that right, boy? She then giggled and turned to Robin. I guess I can still boast after all. I just do it for other people now. I'm Pet Argybrass. I said, no noise, girls and boys, erupted a voice from next door. Suddenly the lights flicked on and off, which was clearly a signal for something to happen. Everyone groaned. Really? Bedtime already? Asked Bettina. Comes around so often. More often than it ever did on Hellesphere anyway. That's because of the way the planet revolves around its solar orb, explained Archelaus. The days are shorter here. Please, said Bettina, stamping her 6 hands over her 6 ears. I told you, time off outside lessons should be spent learning. That's unconstitutional. Everyone seemed to mill around, and I lost track of the conversation during my own trip through Orpheus's cavernous bathroom. I came out again to hear people still talking. Now has everyone brushed their teeth? Asked Lando. No, miss, everyone replied jokingly. Lando does tend to mother us all, Bettina explained to Robin. It's all very irritating sometimes. You know you like it really, smiled Lando sweetly. Now don't forget to wash between your ears. Yes, all 6 of them this time. Robin looked perplexed. I don't even have a toothbrush, she said. I had so little space and so little time to take things away with me. I forgot about doing anything practical. Who wouldn't, said Bettina, sticking up for a new friend. Even Archelaus did the same, and he's practical to a fault. I was under stress, said Archelaus, gliding past on some artificial wheels. It's a natural, instinctive response that's entirely normal. Fact, he said before wheeling himself off. What do I? Asked Robin helplessly. A toothbrush will be there ready and waiting for you, said Lando. You'll know it's yours because it will be earth-coloured. We each of us have one with our planets on it. All except Archelaus, of course. He just takes his teeth out every night and recycles them. Oh, said Robin, still a little shell-shocked. Of course he does. Wait, he doesn't, does he? Come along, smiled Lando, and I'll show you. Though I was used to it by now, seeing the bathroom through the eyes of a newcomer, I could tell what a sight it must be to Robin. There everyone was splashing away merrily, especially Squash, who had climbed into the sink. When he got out, his red spiky fur had fluffed up and turned into a giant furball, much to his annoyance on looking in the mirror. He quickly fled outside to catch the last of a dying sun, which straightened his fur out again. He's addicted, said Lando. The sun was really bright on his homeworld. He says this planet's dull, and the sun here is bright even by my homeworld standards, and my home surrounds 3 suns. Bettina was hard at work, brushing all 3 mouths at once with one long, 3-headed toothbrush. Jake was running round and round the bathroom, being chased by a runaway electric toothbrush. Margot had returned and was cleaning her antlers far more than she was cleaning her teeth, and trying to pretend everyone else didn't exist. XXXX was flossing, with great handfuls of dental floss. Elfrida was staring dreamily in the mirror, while occasionally remembering to dab at her teeth. Hermione was asleep standing up, her electric toothbrush moving up and down by itself, while she stood still and snoozed. Much to Robin's amazement, Archelaus was indeed recycling his teeth, taking out his old pair and getting a new set out of the big box in the corner, and slotting them back in. Here's your uniform, said Hermione, handing over what Robin had dropped on the floor earlier and forgotten about. I think it's a human idea, so you'll probably take to it a bit better than some of your classmates did. It might fit better too. They never look quite right on most of us. I believe our teachers bought all these from Earth, cheap. Well, they would, wouldn't they? She laughed darkly. Robin tried hers on. So that's what the uniform is supposed to look like before various alien adaptations, said Lando. Interesting. We couldn't imagine what it was meant to look like. None of us are what you might call uniform. It just seemed an unnecessary way of making us all look the same to me. Not that I mind looking like a human, he added, in case she'd upset the human. I just mean that only humans are meant to look like humans, and Clandusprods are meant to look like Clandusprods. Plus it's a bit tight round the bottom. Uniforms, Bettina tutted. The indignity, covering up my brilliant individuality. I mean, it's ridiculous making out that we're all the same. I had to cut extra spaces so I could fit all 3 heads into my blouse. That's odd. It looks as if they've had to patch 2 head holes up on mine. It's certainly striking, admitted Robin, not sure what else to say. She'd already noticed Jake was lost in the middle of his uniform, which even in the smallest size was far too big, while XXXX had the opposite problem, his uniform hanging off him like a pocket handkerchief he picked up by accident. The uniform really didn't look light on Rando's wrong neck, Archulus's robotic back, Elfrida's cricket legs, or Hermione's wings either, or Squash was just a hairy red nose in the middle of some grey fabric. As for me, I wasn't too bad, being the approximate right size, but struggled to fit my tail in to keep it warm, all right in my school shoes. "What's this?" asked Robin, looking at a sink in the corner. "Hot and cold taps I recognise, but what are those other squiggles?" "I wouldn't go near the taps on the side," sniffed Archulus, "not with a feeble human constitution." "Why?" asked Robin, curious enough to touch the pipes. "Ouch," she said. "This side's burning hot." "That's mine. Out the way, human. Nash," said Squash, pushing past her rudely and filling up a furry red thing he was holding in his paws. "This is my supernova water bottle. It keeps me hot, hot, hot." "Agrosians come from a warm planet and can't go to sleep unless they're extra cosy," explained Lando. "Careful you don't touch it, though. It's way past boiling point and on to melting point. Their hot water bottles have to be specially reinforced." Said Squash, turning red all over from the tip of his tail to his nose. "Cosy." He rushed out the bathroom and off to bed. "Ouch," said Robin, trying the other side. "This side isn't warm at all. It's freezing." "We're not sure why that tap is here, but I use it for my iced tea," said Lando, pressing a button. "Super," he said, and offered some to Robin, who declined. "Okay, cool," said Robin. "This really is an alien place, isn't it?" And she stopped herself and laughed. "Well, I guess I'm the alien." "We are all the aliens," smiled Lando. "As far as we know, there's no native life on this planet. It was just a big rock until they founded Orpheus." "Yeah," said Hermione, flying past the stationary toothbrush. "Some would say a big rock is all it is still." "Oh, this must be yours, Penguin dear," said Lando, and he handed over a toothbrush with a small picture of Earth on it. "Thank you," Robin said, and Daze picked it up and started brushing. "Oh, so many teeth," said Lando. "Are you a carnivore?" "Carnivore scary," said Jake, running past, still followed by his electric toothbrush. "Not me personally," said Robin, "but traditionally humans are." "You're not going to eat me in the night, are you?" squeaked Jake. "No," said Robin quickly with a wink, catching his toothbrush and putting it on a shelf out of harm's way. "Humans don't eat friends. We look out for them." "Oh, good," heaped Jake. A few minutes later, Robin was busy with the decorations on the final blank 11th of the wall. Elfrida was at her side, trying to help her out. "Honestly," she said, fluttering her Mrasianart wings, "it's a little space in this big old anonymous mess that's 100% yours. I read it in a book somewhere that it helps you settle into somewhere new and scary, and thought it sounded a good idea. I was the first of you to come here, and Lando, who was second, and I thought it would be a nice thing to do for those who came after us, to give us all our own space, though I had to stop Bettina from scribbling all over the whole wall." "What a good idea," said Robin. "But I'm embarrassed. What do I draw?" "Anything you like," said Elfrida. "The important thing is, it's yours. And if it looks odd to everyone else, well, their illustrations probably look weird to you." "That's true," said Robin, staring at everyone else's designs close up. "Oh well, here goes." And she scribbled a few swirls and shapes on the wall before closing her eyes and dipping her brush into several potted paints at random. Elfrida hadn't told her they were special holographic paints that glowed in the dark, and she was briefly taken aback on opening her eyes and seeing the many clashing designs on the wall. "Okay, cool," Robin said, pleased with her handiwork. "Oh, I see," said Elfrida. "Human art is messy. Everyone's art seems to be different to each other's." "Well," said Robin apologetically, "not always. I mean, mine is. I'm hopeless trying to be neat. My condition, you see." "I like it," said Elfrida, clapping her wings and rubbing her back legs together to make a crickety sort of sound. "Free expression, thinking outside the box, exactly what the hall needs more of." She leaned over to the Mekkion, sitting in his section of the hall, counting prime numbers in his head. "Some aliens are too regimented by half," she continued, and stuck her tongue out. Archulus just sighed. "Regimentation and order bring safety," he said, Why open a box at all? I have floors, a ceiling and walls here. It keeps the metaphorical rain off me. It shouldn't be about safety, laughed Elfrida. It should be about translating what it means to be alive, about breaking boundaries, about expressing your inner soul. I don't have an inner soul, said Archelaus. Just a calculator. Fact. He pulled it out to show me from a heart-shaped box inside his chest. Actually, I was just kind of dipping in paint at random, confessed Robin. I like regimented art too. Bettina, Hermione and Jake walked in just then from playing outside. Don't mind these two, laughed Bettina. They're always like this when we get together. We think it's some strange kind of alien flirting. An opposites attract kind of thing. We both blushed. Jake saw the colours on Robin's wall and immediately dived into his pillow fold. Random glowing lines of colour scary, he said, his big eyes staring out at us from his hiding place. The lights dimmed again for longer. Well, said Hermione, it's time for bed. Night all. She climbed up to a hammock that had mysteriously appeared on the wall. Typical, I feel wide awake now. Wait, we sleep in the same hall we were just in? Asked Robin. Yeah, said Bettina, the caretaker's been busy. Well, not really, said Archelaus. I helped to install a series of electrical impulses, which means the whole room could change over at the touch of a button. The way he was doing it when I came, it took hours, and none of us was getting any sleep. Clever, eh? I'll say, replied Robin, impressed. While we've been talking and painting, all 11 beds have been wheeled out in place of our chairs, and I got into my basket bed. Bettina's dominated the side of the room nearest to us with its 3 headboards, while XXXXX's giant bed-sized bed dominated the other side. In between were a complete menagerie. Jake's tiny night pillow fort, Lando's plump bedding, Margalo's bed with the antlers on the headboard, which was faced to the wall away from everyone else, Archelaus' slumber box built out of what looked like a sort of space-age Lego, Squash's colourful beanbag ball surrounded by large slogans and drawings, and my own simple bed box decorated with cursive handwriting. Hermione was in her hammock, strung up above everyone else's, opposite Elfrida, who made a nest for herself on top of part of the holographic roulette board, separate from everyone else. To my eyes it looked as if she was hovering in mid-air, and I had long been worried about what might happen if someone were to turn the whole thing off in the night, but the Mrasianart seemed to know what she was doing, and it hadn't happened yet. In the middle was a human-looking bed that nobody had ever seen before, and which I guessed was Robin's. Nobody was claiming it, and everyone else seemed to be accounted for. Lando went to ask her if that was hers, and she admitted she didn't know. Let's drag it next to ours, he said, making room next to mine. We could pretend we are having a welcoming party. A midnight feast. Feast, said XXXXX, jumping out of his bed. No, oh dear, said Lando, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting all mentions of culinary foods are banned in here. I've messed up again. Robin sat down on the bed and quickly sat up again, rubbing her bottom. Ow, what's this? She said. There's something extra warm in my bed. All eyes turned to Hermione, but she shook her head. Not one of my pranks, she said. I don't prank you girls or boys. She then grinned evilly. Not till the second night, anyway. Mine, said Squash, picking up a giant furry red bottle that was as big as he was. Keep me warm at night. Nash. It's usually too hot to hold when I first get into bed, so I put it on the empty bed. I've forgotten it wasn't empty now. Sorry. Nash. Squash then climbed into bed and curled up in his own bed with the bottle, sucking his tail contentedly. Oh, said Robin, rubbing her backside. No harm done, I think. It has warmed my bed up. Blimey, that thing's hot, though. I feel as if I'm still on fire. Lando whispered over to Robin. I've forgotten he likes to do that. Sorry, I should have reminded him. It really does get super hot. I sat on it once. Even my spots got spots. The lights flickered, a warning that we didn't have long till lights out. Story, piped up Jake from inside his pillow fort. Yes, said Archelaus. We have to fulfil the requirements of the rota. Whose turn is it tonight, Archie? Asked Bettina as the Mekkion turned on a head torch and consulted a long list he compiled, a list that I knew had dates worked out for at least the next 1,000 years. A little bit pessimistic, I thought, given that I hoped to leave school sometime before then. By rights it should be Collins, he said, but I take it you're going to pass again. I nodded anxiously, freezing at the mention of my name. You're sure you don't want to speak? I shook my head so vigorously my tail nearly came off. And someone else should be nominated, said Bettina. And Bagsy, it's me, as I know all the best stories and... Hold on a minute, said Lando. "Robin's missed for most reading sessions. By right it should be her telling us a story, so she can catch up a little bit." The Mekkion's and the human's eyes both opened wide with surprise. "If I will make such a mess of my rota," moaned Archelaus, stressed out. "Oh dear," he said, "another circuit blown." Mekkions weren't designed to experience emotion. "Hang on a mo." And as he froze, he opened up his chest and inserted another fuse he took from his pocket. "Oh, that's better," he said, as his body lit up again. "What's up?" said Robin, alarmed. Archelaus looked ashamed. "A personal affliction," he said. "The one I was telling you about. Whenever I get emotional, I tend to burst the fuses I need to keep myself running. Mekkions aren't meant to do it, but, well, I'm still learning how to control my outbursts." "I didn't see much of an outburst," said Robin. "By human standards, I mean. I've had way bigger ones than that. Today." "Ah," said Archelaus, "but the human body is designed to take emotion. You even gain tear ducts to help leak the emotion out of your eyes. Our bodies, though, aren't built for such a thing. A good job I can keep sending off for more supplies of fuses." "What happens if you run out?" asked Robin. "I shut down," said Archelaus sadly. "If enough time goes by without being rebooted, I lose all my memories and have to learn about my life all over again." "How awful," said Robin. "Please," said Lando, "if you ever see Archelaus turned off when he isn't in bed, come and tell me. I know what to do." "I will," said Robin. "Now what was that about a story?" "It's your turn," said Archelaus. "I've marked you down on the rota as Mr. or Mrs. X," he whispered. "Please agree. I can't handle losing another fuse." Robin panicked. "But I don't know any stories." "Any will do," said Lando. "We're sick of ours. Bettina only knows one and we've heard it 20 times already." "But Penguin hasn't heard it," Bettina complained. "You don't mind, do you, Penguin?" "No," stuttered Robin before Lando overruled her. "Then all the better to build up your story so that she relishes it more when it's your turn. Now what say you, Robin? There must be some story you know about." "I can't think what to tell you," said Robin. "I had a huge collection of books on Earth, but they're all left behind now." "We like parables, if that helps," asked Elfrida. Jake got out of his pillow fort to creep closer to her, and the rest all followed expectantly. "Tell us one that reflects what it is to be human, if you can." "Oh, okay," said Robin. "A short parable, right?" "One that lasts precisely 4 minutes and 27 seconds, replied Archelaus, looking at his watch. "That's the time we've got until the lights off in the corridor go off automatically." "Don't the teachers come in to check up on us?" asked Robin. "Oh no," said Hermione. "They leave us to our own devices post-lessons, as long as we don't make too much noise. Which, to be fair, we do quite often." "Tell us a story about what it means to be human," said Elfrida. "I'm not sure if I know what it is to be human," said Robin apologetically. "Is there a story with a robin in it?" asked Lando. "Oh, sort of. I know, I could tell you a story from one of my books, but I'm not sure how accurately I can remember it," said Robin. "It dates back so far in time that nobody knows if he really existed or not. He's been an inspiration for lots of humans down the centuries." "That's all right," said Elfrida. "All sorts of stories change across the centuries with retelling. It's probably a very different story to the one your parents knew in the 21st century, anyway." "That's true," said Robin. "What's it about?" asked Jake. "Anything too scary?" "Ooh," said Robin. "Not too scary." "Oh." Glabdiharbit's face fell. "Wait," asked Robin. "I thought you didn't like to be scared." "Not in stories," said Jake. "Not when it's safe. That's a good kind of scared." "Oh," said Robin. "All right then. This is a very scary tale, full of outlaws and villains." "What's an outlaw?" asked Bettina. "Someone who operates outside the law," explained Robin. "How do they operate outside the law?" asked Bettina. "Do they have guns and knives and do they kill people?" "No," said Robin. "Bows and arrows. And they didn't kill people, they protected them by stealing from the rich and handing out the money to the poor, so that they didn't starve." "So they're fighting tax dodgers," laughed Hermione. "Good luck making this story interesting, Robin. Do they have off-world bank accounts like they do nowadays?" "No," said Robin. "The equivalent back then was hiding stuff up a tree so the tax collectors didn't get hold of it. Anyway, once upon a time there was an outlaw named Robin Hood." "Like the bird?" asked Lando. "No," said Robin thoughtfully. "He was a fox in one version I saw. I think he was meant to be a human. Anyway, he was an outlaw who lived in Sheerlock Forest with lots of his friends, who were known as the Merry Beings, Little John the Doosbury Giant, Friar Tuck the Holy Mrasianart, Will Roulé the Clandusprod, and, well, there were heaps of them. He was in love with a beautiful maid Marian Mekkion, who also had the hots for him. They all live in a forest. Why? Asked Jake. That sounds scary. Because they wanted to be free of the window taxes the citizens paid to the sheriff of Nottingham, explained Robin. He was a part-time salesman who wasn't very good, and he was really jealous of anyone who had double glazing. He was an evil Doosbury Giant, and always charged far too much tax when he should, so that he could take it back to his master, the cowardly Glabdiharbit King John, while also keeping some back for himself to spend on food. He wasn't really the king either. He was just filling in for when his brother Richard the Habridat was away napping, and he ruled most illogically on his whims. Scary, said Archelaus. The Doosbury Giant wasn't impressed when people didn't give him bread. He went round saying, then give me cake instead, not knowing that people who couldn't afford their own bread definitely couldn't afford cakes as well. Scary, said XXXXX. Anyway, Robin was a really good shot with a bow and arrow, and he was really humble. Scary, said Bettina. But he really wanted to help, so he bravely entered a shooting contest to try and rescue Maid Marian by first impressing her. For being a Mekkion, she was only impressed by complete accuracy. Only the sheriff had set up the contest to try and capture Robin. He knew that the best shot in the contest had to be Robin Hood, and so when Robin won the competition, he had his men arrest him. Poor Robin spent a long time in the dungeon. Scary, said Jake, but his friends let him out. The townsfolk hated the sheriff, you see. Injustice, nodded Elfrida. Scary. And he had no friends. Scary, said Lando, clutching his bedclothes. But everyone liked Robin, and they chanted as they went, all for one and one for all, except where greed comes to call, for when we're rich they have a ball, they make outlaws of us all. The noise wakes Richard the Lion Habridat up suddenly. Scary, mumbled Hermione. He hears about what his squeaky brother has been up to and is horrified, so he decides to pardon Robin Hood and lock John and the sheriff up instead. Then everybody becomes really nice. Scary, said Squash, and they all eat cake. Robin faltered. I may have got some bits of that wrong, but that was the gist of it. I hope you could all follow it okay. It's kind of humanish. We don't like injustice, even though we seem to be the cause of most of it in the universe. What a beautiful story, sniffed XXXXX, wiping his eyes on a pancake he had in his pocket. Starvation is such a terrible crime, but there was a happy ending. With cake. Hermione scoffed. I like the shooting bits. The human bits, not so much. Yahoo, said Bettina. I really like Penguin Hood. I'm going to get my bow and arrow out tomorrow. No, you're not, said Lando quickly. It got confiscated, remember? You kept knocking poor Squash over. That was a narrow escape, quipped Hermione. That story was long, scoffed Margalo. Now that's scary. I liked it, said Elfrida. An unquenchable spiritual quest for equality which for the unjust ruffians was always doomed to end in failure. Some parts of it were illogical, said Archelaus. Why didn't the sheriff just burn down the forest? And didn't King John know his brother would wake up one day? Said Robin. I think it was an inflammable forest, and John hid Richard's alarm clock. Ah, said the Mekkion, satisfied. That would explain everything. There's a sheriff under my bed, wailed Jake loudly. I know there is. No, Jake, said Lando, shining a torch. There's nothing there except pillows. The sheriff has eaten my pillows and disguised itself, wailed Jake, causing Lando to get out of bed and check. Ready for full lights out, everyone, said Archelaus, looking at his watch. In 3, 2, 1. The light shut off automatically. We all heard a wail. I'm afraid of the dark, said the tiny voice from inside a pillow fort. Hermione groaned. Every single night this happens. Well then, Jake, put on your nightlight Archelaus made for you. Moments later there was another loud squeak. What's wrong now? I'm afraid of my nightlight. Everyone groaned except Lando, who, being able to see in the dark, went over to speak a few comforting words to the Glabdiharbit, which seemed to do the trick before announcing the Clandusprod tuck-in and going round everyone's bed, wishing them sweet good night. When she got near Robin, I heard her whisper, I do this every night. I like everyone to close their eyes and pretend I'm whoever they used to have tucking them in at night. That was a good story considering you didn't have much wanting to tell it. Now good night, Robin dear. It's been so good to make a new friend. I look forward to getting to know you better tomorrow and hope that you settle in here well. Ignore everyone else's behaviour to you earlier. We all remember what our first day was like. You're one of us now and will be forever, or until graduation, whichever comes first. Well, graduation I suppose, but it does feel like forever, doesn't it? I don't know, I got into a muddle again there. All I really wanted to say was, sweet dreams. Thank you so much, and you, I heard Robin whisper, and her eyes seemed to be leaking. Most odd. I'd heard about this unique human phenomenon, but never had a chance to study it before. I reminded myself to ask Robin about it in the morning, before I dropped off. I could hear rustling in my room. I hoped my head torch wasn't disturbing anyone. I was enjoying going back through old notes I had made across the day and writing them out again. Robin spoke out. What's that? Oh, sorry, forgot where I was. Just for a minute there I thought I was back. Just as I was about to whisper my apologies, we were interrupted. Sorry too, said Hermione's voice from the hammock, where she was wide awake and busy. I'm nocturnal really, you see. I work best when the sun's in. Only nobody in this sprod-forsaken school seems to have thought of that, so I'm catching up on homework. Homework? Fancy giving us homework after what we've been through? I mean, the odds are low that we're going to, grow up to use any of this knowledge if things carry on as they were. I'd as soon not do it. Then again, it is Mrs. Magrumph's class. Perhaps I'd better. Is she as scary as she seems? Robin asked, suddenly realising that she sounded just like a Glabdiharbit. Is Margalo asleep? I don't want her snitching on us. Hermione hesitated, checked, then answered. Worse. She was actually in quite a good mood today. For her. Think of your nastiest, ugliest, rudest teacher, and quadruple it. Now I'd antlers. Now sting her with insects and smear her with mud to make her extra grumpy. That's still not anywhere near to how close to scary Mrs. Maggrumph is when she's trying to be friendly. Legend has it that she has a permanent scowl because a student trapped her antlers in a door once, and she's declared war on all children because of it, but they never lived to tell the full story, because she ate them. She's living out her existence here as penance, because you aren't meant to eat your pupils, even the really naughty ones. I only heard it second-hand from Elfrida, mind. And between you and me, I'm never quite sure how much that girl is making up half the time. She seems to spend most of the time inside her imagination. I could well believe it's all true, though. I felt Robin shudder. And I suppose I'd better stay on the good side, if she has one. She doesn't, answered my companion. Don't worry though, Penguin. We can play a trick on her if you like. Wait, what? Said the human. Oh, sure, said Hermione, shifting in a hammock. I've got all sorts of devices I brought from Habridat with me, but because Mrs. Maggrumph doesn't know about my planet, she hasn't got a clue where they're from and doesn't know how to stop them. We all get into trouble, but then we all get to enjoy the look on her face. So, win-win. Why would you? Began Robin, but Hermione cut her off. Little victories, she said, suddenly looking serious. It's the only way to survive this prison sentence we've been given. Look, something to remember when you're here. They're the enemy, all adults. They're the ones who abandoned us and left us here. They don't like us, and we don't like them. They treat us as if we're stupid, so the more foolish we make them look, the better it is in my book. Is that really the best way, though? Asked Robin uncomfortably. I mean to make mad people madder. One day I'll make them every bit as mad as they've made me, said Hermione, talking in a low, angry voice. The way they've treated all of us since coming here is scandalous. Usually practical jokes are seen as a way of breaking the ice on my home planet, but not here. I use them as weapons to break the ice, and then make these people fall through it several feet to their icy deaths. Then we'll see how they like that. We heard panic squeaking. 1,000,000 murderous Mrasianarts, will you shut up, Hermione? Said the sleepy Bettina. You're getting intense again. It's scary, but Glabdiharbit. How can I be laid back given what's happened to us all? Asked Hermione. We're children. We deserve to feel safe. We deserve to feel protected. Innocents. We never did any harm to anyone, and then along came some adults who get their kicks out of hurting us because we don't have the power to stop them. Ha, said Bettina, rolling over. Innocent? You? I was once, carried on Hermione, ignoring the interruption, till they took all that away from me. They say that you can tell how civilised the universe is by how it treats its argybraphs, but I say it's the young, the last great prejudice that still exists out there in the universe. Do you know, on every single planet there are Mother's Day cards, and Father's Day cards, and Grandparents' cards, and Sprod Parents' cards, but where are the Happy Children's Day cards, celebrating all we do for the world? Or was sorry for the inconvenience of your being born, but I got randy one night and couldn't stop myself, and now you have to cope with all this life and responsibility being thrown at you card. I like cards, bright colours. They help me forget the darkness in between receiving them. bet you were real fun at parties as a kid, mumbled Bettina, doing a good impression of Hermione's sarcasm. Hermione threw a pillow at Bettina's middle head in return. I don't like adults, Penguin, snarled Hermione. Nothing good ever came from hanging round adults, of any species. They creep me out. You can never tell what they're thinking. They never ever keep their promises. They don't even listen to you half the time. If you call them out on a lie, they told you to make out you're the one behaving badly for pointing it out. It will come down on you like a ton of Habridat bricks if you tell one and they find you out. They'll pretend to your face that everything's all right when it isn't, and then when you discover it isn't, and instead of giving you a chance to come to terms with it, they'll betray you and pack you off to some orphan planet light years from home. And they're always being distracted by something, so they forget what they were meant to be doing. You think that they're there to protect you, but really they're only protecting themselves, walking around dishing orders and telling you off for contradicting them. I don't think adults live in the same world children do. I much prefer our one. At least you know who your friends are here. Adults only really seem to have acquaintances they won't share the same bit of carpet with, barring the friends they made growing up. It's all right, Hermione, said the sleepy Lando. You're with us now. We'll protect you. You don't need to worry. Now shut up and go to sleep before I get up and lamp you on. I mean that nicely, by the way. I won't sleep till all my brothers and sisters are free, Hermione hissed. Though I wouldn't say no to a nap. That's different. We protect each other. That's all we've got now, Robin, she said, turning to the human. I thought to myself how strange it was that they were using her real name suddenly, and had obviously not been using Penguin as a mistake at all for all this time. We'll protect you too. You're one of us now. We all know what it's like to be abandoned. We all know what it's like to be picked on. We won't let them do it to you. When they hurt one of us, they hurt all of us. Just please, don't be a tattletale the way Margalo turned out to be. I made the mistake of trusting her early on, and bitterly regretted it. I won't, squeaked Robin, again sounding like a Glabdiharbit. If you've got my back, I've got yours too. Hermione smiled and went back to lie down. Good, she said simply. Welcome to the gang. Now get some sleep, Penguin. You'll need it for your lesson tomorrow. I'm sorry for waking you.